the heart and soul of our sport, where these players strive to become who they're truly meant to be.
No more break, it's time for action. Welcome to Overwatch Contenders. It's time for another glorious day of NA. I am Rich Rat here alongside Kenobi, and I know you're all probably wondering, Rich Rat, you don't have any sunglasses, you don't have a hat on, we talk about summer every time. I can know, Kenobi. It's literally just you, me, and my summer campfire chair.
You brought a plastic chair down there?
Oh. I made it work. See, you know, again, it wasn't on my face, but it's where my butt's gonna sit. So, like all of you at home, you're gonna be sitting.
Wait, don't tell me you're gonna be casting in the plastic chair.
No, I'm not gonna sit in my plastic chair. I'm not gonna sit in the plastic chair for that. But for those at home, we're excited to have you sit and plop down for this next amazing opportunity to see these matches. You and I have had a spectacular week, and we can take a look at what the roster, well, technically what the schedule looks like today, Kenobi.
Yeah, I mean, we start things off with a matchup that I think, you know, as we're getting towards the second half of the group stages so far in the round robin, matches start to become a lot more important in terms of those stakes. And here between Afterlife and Rift, where they are currently in those standings, should be a really important one for kind of figuring out who might get to that 8th spot and sneak into the playoffs at the end of the season. But also Wisp versus O3 Splash. O3 Splash looks really good, undefeated at the current moment as we're saying this. I mean, obviously there's going to be a round before they play, but at the current moment, O3 Splash seems like the best team that we have in NA. Obviously, you know, you have Pirates and Pajamas, Saints following up a little bit there with Wisp at 4-2. And again, I said this yesterday in broadcast, Rich, the top half of this NA bracket or NA group stage is very competitive, I think, between all of them. I feel like you could pick out of a hat from Wisp, Saints, Pirates and Pajamas, and O3 Splash and be like, yeah, that team could definitely make a run to the finals.
Yeah, and again, just everyone itching to make sure that they can solidify that 8th spot. Amplified right now at the present moment sitting there, but there is so much that can happen with these number of rounds remaining. And, you know, ultimately this first one I think is going to be a really good one. We've had in these last 2 broadcasts for NA specifically that we've been able to start off some really, really intense matches. It's been unreal to go to a map 5 round 3. It's just been relentless in their pursuit for competition. And for those that are here wanting to give their feedback, you should definitely use the prediction down below. 1 for Afterlife, 2 for Rift, to see who's going to be able to take this. And we've seen some surprising prediction percentages, some with upsets, some with glories.
Yeah, I mean, if it's us here for first game of NA, probably going to be a map 5 or just start things off. These 2 teams are close enough where I definitely wouldn't be shocked if it went all the way. But Rich, we can take a look at the rosters starting off here with Afterlife, and names that are, I think, familiar to a lot of people that have been kind of around NA Tier 2 for a long time, and also just in general for Overwatch. I think Lethal, someone who had went to Overwatch League, London Spitfire, now coming back into Tier 2 and Contenders, playing alongside Zura. Rhino, someone who's been around the block for Contenders for a very, very long time. In the support line of Fix and Meter as well, I think a very consistent duo in their own right now coming into this Afterlife team. Fix is someone that you and I are very familiar with casting Redbird. So I think that, like, this team has a lot of really good pieces to it, and I think that they're definitely primed to be able to potentially sneak into that 8th spot. They were like hovering around there yesterday, and I think Amplify's the only other team that, or is like one of the other teams, I should say, that is close to like being able to take that spot from them.
Yeah, a couple of crazy matchups that we got to see on broadcast, specifically with Amplified, and now hopefully we get to see the same thing today from Afterlife, but their opponent is also looking to do the same thing, being in that bottom portion in where their seeding is, Rift specifically. And again, these are names that we are also used to seeing. Really excited to see their performance. I also look at the support line specifically for Rift and how they're going to compete against both Fix and Meter, who are very stellar in their own right. We've seen so much quality support play, even a multi-repeated support play from earlier in EU, a sleep whip shot pulse bomb counter play, and just the amazing opportunities from these supports is quite spectacular.
Yeah, and I think that this team as well, there are a lot of names that have kind of been around for a while, at least in Tier 2, and haven't really made that like jump yet. Like, I think Chime is someone who I remember a couple of seasons back was like very prominent as being a player to look out for, especially on Pharah. I think that was when like the Pharah Junker Queen meta was kind of like starting to prop up a little bit. But yeah, I think as well, when you look at like Yumitra, someone that, again, you and I have a lot of history with, you know, watching Northwood. This team, I think, is also like primed and poised with where they are like in the standings right now. I mean, they're 1-5. I think like to probably get to eighth, you need to be like, you need to have at least, I'm thinking like 3 wins, 4 wins probably to like eke it out. So for Rift, I think this is very much like a must win for them, and for Afterlife, this is probably like the same thing. I think for both of these teams, like a win here, I think it's more important for Afterlife to win because, it's more important for Rift because I think going down 1-6 is going to be like very hard to come back from and get into that 8th spot.
100%. And it's really, again, just out the gate going to see how this, fends off the different types of, compositions, also the similarities from what we've seen. We got to see a really couple of nice instances where, it's not this typical, meet with the same composition, go with the head-to-head. There were those moments of taking and deviating away to something a little bit more customized, and Numbani is the first thing that comes to mind specifically that we got to cast most recently, where we did see a Cassidy rolled into the mix of this, something unique alongside with a Baptiste and others, where it just changes the dynamic, the surprise factor, and the variation from what has been common throughout these last few days of broadcasts. We do have confirmation going into Lijiang Tower as our first map of control.
Yeah, and Lijiang Tower, much like a lot of the control maps that we've been seeing, is kind of a map that type that does offer a little bit of versatility in terms of the compositions that we could potentially see, right? We have the, control center. One of the maps that I think throughout the test of time in Overwatch has just been like, this is the rush map. Like, we always play rush here, or brawly style of compositions. And then the other two are a little bit more open, right, where you can see things like the Pharah. So Chime, for instance, could be something that we see from him. And I think in the regard to like Pharah question, I think it's probably not going to be Pharah, but something that's like similar to that is like Echo. Echo has seen a lot of prominence rise up in like the current meta. I think a lot of people are starting to play it a lot more. The assassination potential, the burst potential of that hero, especially against like Winstons, if they are being a little bit too aggressive, you can just instantly, if they're sub 250 health, just incinerate them. And I think that is something that has really amplified Echo's positioning in the meta, especially with some of the nerfs to like the other heroes that was and like people, I think, starting to trend away from Somber if they know that it's not something they can really pilot as well. Yeah,
the Sticky Bomb Focusing Beam combo has been disgusting. We saw on 3 separate occasions just instantaneous evisceration when it comes to the Echo play yesterday on Numbani. Once again, another highlight. If you didn't get to see it, you can definitely go back and watch it. Just all of the NA series really have been top-notch, in addition to, EU going to their map 5s as well. We're curious to see if we can get a 3rd day in a row here, Kenobi, to enter into that map 5, or maybe we'll have ourselves not a long run full 3rd round map 5.
Did we use up all our power?
I think we really did. I think we've expended it. We've really expended it. We used all.
Well, don't say. I mean, don't say. Hey, we still have 2 series left this week, and some next week. So don't. So yeah, I mean, these 2 teams are close enough in the bracket. I mean, to be able to probably make something happen in terms of like being a close matchup. And even yesterday when we saw, there were teams that like worldwide, they were playing that Amplify series incredibly close, right? So I think this is very much a point of the bracket where you can see kind of these like upsets happening if you aren't really expecting like the other team to really come out and surprise you like we saw worldwide do to Amplify.
And they're going to be itching to make sure that they put on the best performance possible because of where they're all residing. And we've seen even just earlier in the placements in the standings that there is that top, basically solidified group of individuals getting to talk to Saints as well. Yesterday after their match, they look always towards that playoff position where they do have to flip the switch. And this is the moment where they get to play not only competitively, but competitively by having fun. So that's a whole different ballgame when we talk about these teams where they do not want to let anything get away from them because it guarantees that 8th spot with how close they are.
Yeah, I mean, you get to play more Overwatch, which is kind of like the thing, and like get more reps against like the really good teams that you have, and like you don't want to miss out because it's just that your season being over at that point is just really not good in terms of like being able to have that preparation and being able to go through a playoff experience, because I think that's something that's also important. Like if we look at going upwards towards like Overwatch League and stuff like that, having the experience of like being in playoffs is incredibly important. And there are some players in this matchup that we've seen having that already and kind of have been in positions like this before where they're probably like, scratching out for that 8th and 7th spot. So they know it's on the line here. And I think that this, again, probably going to be a very close matchup between both of these teams. As always, chat predictions, we want to hear your voices. One's for Afterlife, 2's for Rift in the chat right now. I think chat's record has actually been pretty
accurate. Yeah, it's been pretty okay.
I've had some ones that like positive. We also there've been some ones there it's like, oh, it's very like heavily favored one side and then they lose, but like for the most part I think they've been pretty good. Good job with chat.
Yeah, good job for you. I mean, they're just happy in and of itself to get that percentage right when they can, but then also just being able to accrue those skins. That's why we love these long run games, because you get to guarantee all those extra cosmetics for you to play yourselves when you do have your match going, whether it's in competitive or unranked. Most of the time it's just me in quick play, but I like to every dabble my feet in competitive and watch everybody cringe at my Orisa play. But that's a story in and of itself, as we do get to now hop into this game to see which sub-map specifically for Lijiang Tower we're going to enter into, and it's actually going to be Gardens. So there is some verticality to this map specifically that's going to be extremely helpful for those options that you had mentioned, such as the Echo, potentially even the Pharah, and how that's going to integrate with the rest of the squad, and if we even get a chance to see it.
I think as well with the Echo, I wonder if we'll see like a matchup of it, like in the air between like, because when I look at Lethal and Zura, I'm not necessarily expecting like Pharah or like Echo to be like some of those things they bring out. Like Lethal maybe I think is someone who has a lot of that projectile experience, but like Chime is someone who I don't know if I would want to take like just a matchup mano-a-mano and Echo in the sky, just because it might be a little bit difficult. But it looks like actually we're gonna be seeing something a little bit different here from both these teams as they're just hovering it out. Afterlife.
Emphasis on hovering it out.
If Afterlife does this, not this comp again, not the Trick Room comp. I thought we were past this.
Oh, you know what? We might have seen things come and go, but that methodology behind the Bastion, I don't think will ever fade. Well, that doesn't mean that they've swapped it yet. Rhino gonna give us a taste of the Junker Queen, and we've seen actually a lot of this, and they're...
Oh, yeah, it's the Trick Room comp.
Okay, all right, here we go.
They're going to try and just mow him down right here at the start, so you're going to be looking out for this wall. Actually, from Chime is going to be incredibly important, because Chime is going to need to kind of use this wall, potentially a little bit defensively, to zone off the Bastion as soon as Zura has that form available to him, because Zura, really without the turret form, isn't necessarily a hero, right? It's all of the value about where this turret form goes and how it's going to be used, and Rift have to play incredibly carefully around it, because they will get melted.
Yeah, and Zura is one of those players that we've seen have so much flexibility, really a rising star on the Genji previously, has dabbled slightly onto this as well. Nice harassment onto Lethal, who has forced out the Crown Freeze already. Vix and Lethal picked up. This is a bloodbath in favor of Rift, as they have completely annihilated Afterlife.
And Afterlife played that, or Rift rather, played that super patiently, which I love, right? They give up the positioning at the start, then they make that rotation when they know Bastion doesn't have that turret form, so they can make that safe rotation throughout the side. Then AstraZeneca keeps a lot of his very key cooldowns, like the shield, like that Vortex, to be able to basically just negate a lot of what the Bastion wanted to do there. So a great start from Rift as we go into this Lijiang Tower map, and now it's about Afterlife trying to get back into this one. Lethal has gotten really close towards that Blizzard, and that could be something that is going to be able to break this open.
Attempt for the charge forward, a little bit of miscommunication in the placement of the wall, can't quite get the pin necessary as the Immortality field comes out. Zura gets instantly blown up again. Astronex putting in so much work with this Ramatra up front, getting multiple executions previously and finding the early pickup out the gate. Chime actually able to find the better end as well with the Blizzard.
And Lethal, committed the Blizzard to that one in what seemed like a losing fight. They losing Zura so early. That's a lot of damage potential that you lose. And Afterlife also as well using Ant Matrix. So a couple of ultimates that they probably would have liked to have had going into this next fight, but Rift did commit some of their own, right? They had to get the Sound Barrier out, the Blizzard, and the Coalescence as well. So it's not a terrible loss for Afterlife, especially now with the Sound Barrier coming back into this one to match potentially this Death Blossom and AstraZeneca's Annihilation, which does do a ton of AoE damage, and Sound Barrier is perfect for negating that.
Nice denial on entry for the moment, but it will go down very quickly, especially with Zura. Nice elimination as well from Lethal to bring down that Reaper, denying the Death Blossom into this fight. So that gives the numbers advantage, an ultimate advantage here, really, to surpass Rift. The Annihilation is going to be a big opportunity. Nice shatter to set them down to their knees for the moment, and Lethal gets the follow-through. Swap over now for Afterlife, and they can start accumulating some percent of their own.
Yeah, really heads-up play there from Rhino, using that Shadow just to make sure the Annihilation isn't going to get any value. There's not really another option for, what Shatter's going to get value from unless you hit, a big one in the backline, but that's not really going to be viable against this composition that Rift have. And now Afterlife, they had some ultimate economy problems a little bit earlier, but now they're looking super pretty with 4 ultimates in their bank. Rift really need to kind of probably use some of those ultimates, like their Coalescence, to be a little bit aggressive and go forward here. Chime potentially also has to use a Blizzard to be able to push through this defensive end.
And look at how X10 is playing this outskirts, looking for an opportunity to flank, but it really isn't an opening because Afterlife actually draws back onto the point. Ant Matrix, Sentry Turret guarantees that they're not going to push into that.
Yeah, you have to wait this one out. There's no way you want to be aggressive into the Bastion. Even just in recon form with that Ant Matrix, it still does a lot. Here comes the Coalescence.
Counteracting potentially with the ultimate from Zura. Can they gain an elimination? There's There's also the Cryo Freeze from Lethal to withstand, but the Death Blossom finds Meter in the back. Unfortunately, that Immortality field will not last long enough, as you have a little bit of zonage here. Chime says, hey, X10, sorry, I'm back in spawn. I really can't do anything for you. You gotta wait.
X10's just like sitting there looking at the wall, like, please just drop the wall, let me through. But Afterlife have to make desperate swaps here to try and get back onto this point. Zura's on the Tracer, Rhino going over to the Hammond. Can they get someone to proc overtime? It looks like they have.
Yep. Zura on the Tracer gets the overtime, but now the question is, can they get back for a stable engagement with the numbers that they have? A lot of heavy mobility with that adjustment for specifically the Tracer and the Wrecking Ball. Getting locked down on the point, chip away damage works so quickly through Rhino's health value. And now with this Nemesis form playing aggressively outward, it should be able to force most of Afterlife away. It won't be able to recover from this now with the Annihilation to boot. Just following up on the stragglers, picking them up. As you can see, they'll take the high ground. But either way, when you come right back down, you're going to find yourself back in the grave.
Yeah, and I mean, now it's just a formality, it feels like. I mean, Rhino's still alive, but against, like, all of this upfront damage with the Mei as well, it should just be very difficult. I mean, I say that, Zura does manage to find a pick onto AstraZeneca, and this is a lot of health bars to chew through. I mean, for Rift, they need to start finding some kills quickly.
Yeah, it's getting a little dangerous. They've truly kept this going with Rhino, single-handedly, just bobbing and weaving with this, and could find the opportunity of turning it back. There is the Coalescence once again, but with the wall active for the moment, it denies the entryway. Mitra gets the shutdown finally onto the Hamster, who has been spinning to winning for it seems like multiple minutes, and now X10's just holding this Death Blossom for a guaranteed isolation onto those combating onto the point, because the second they get off of this, it will instantly vanish in the overtime. Lethal brought back to spawn for a second time now in this overly extended matchup. We talked about it before going into this, how important these matches are for these teams because of where they stand. And it is going to be like this the entirety of this first series.
Yeah, that's what I would call a scrap right there. Just a complete scrap, just at the very end, just trying to get as much percentage. And I mean, they were close. I mean, Zura gets that pulse bomb. They got a lot of time back for Rhino to be able to spin to win, and there just wasn't the damage. But eventually, you know, everything came back into it, and they were able to win. And I think going into the second map now, I don't think we'll probably see the Bastion composition, especially because we're going to Night Market, and this is where like the symmetric compositions reign supreme, as we can see in the chat predictions. 44% for Afterlife, 56% for Rift. So kind of chat agreeing with us that it's probably going to be much more of a close one here. I wonder though if Rift come out on the Reinhardt mirror, because that would be something interesting to see if we do see that Rein mirror, because it's not something we've seen too much of.
It's been very light, and only on I think one separate occasion outside of this that we've been able to see it. There is the TP that goes quickly.
They killed it, yeah.
That was lightning fast to just deny accessibility onto this point. And now you're going to have Rift play into these three position turrets from Zura. Again, just really having to be cognizant where that initial damage is, keeping your head on a swivel. And you can just see right now the wall locks him in. AstraZeneca is just getting vaporized from the corners, making it so much more challenging for the supports to keep them alive. Abyss already tosses in the Immortality field, but Chime on the flanking position can't do anything, and they're now being dismantled.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Afterlife there wanted to Rift rather wanted to rotate around with the TP from X10, but Chime unfortunately wasn't able to find a pick in the backline, and then without Ice Block, it's just easy pickings for the rest of the team, and without the Mei, this composition falls apart a little bit, so Afterlife is sitting very pretty here on this defensive end, especially with Lethal coming up towards that Blizzard, and it's going to make it even more difficult for Rift to get in, but they do have an Ant Matrix, so maybe they can create a little bit of space for themselves to make it easier on entry.
Hopefully they can do so, but once again, those turrets already placed, so they'll have to be cognizant moving in. Window active to the right doorway, TP to bypass and go to the flank, making them have to be very wary of where that positioning is, but oh my goodness, the photon barrier divides and conquers. You couldn't see X10 get the most advantageous position to counteract against it, and Afterlife is playing this beautifully and continuing to hold on.
Yeah, I mean, Zura just so charged right there in a really well-placed wall to negate a lot of what X10 wanted to do on that flank, and I mean, Rift have been trying to make these like fancy little TP plays into the backline, seeing what they can get, but the peel is just so good from Afterlife. Fixes everywhere right now. Every time a TP is in, always just booping members away, not letting them get the value that they want, and once you lose one of these DPS, you just lose so much of that damage output, and Afterlife still have a really relatively good ultimate economy to hold here.
Yeah, the reactive gameplay is on point for Afterlife. They have not been broken just yet. This is the final moment that Rift is going to have to try and push into this with only 24% remaining. A Shatter could be dropped just around the wall. Blizzard actually activated first. Cryo Freeze out from Lethal to deny, and also gets a great Blizzard to block both entrance points. So Rift has no point of entry. Nice Shatter to try and counteract against it. A pin attempt as well. But Afterlife has absolutely come back tenfold in this second round with going to be 100-0, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like even just from frame one of like the entry, as soon as they were able to take down that teleporter, it just looked so well played for Afterlife. Just the coordination was great. I think Fix played incredible just in the backline, always negating those TP plays that were trying to come through the table. And 1-1 score, I mean, the second submap, very convincing for Afterlife, and I wonder if we see a swap over to something a little bit more different on the other side for Rift, because I think the Ramatra composition looked a lot better for them.
And we've not had the chance to say this often with us on cast, so that's right, hashtag OWPTP2023. Give us the tweets, use the hashtag. We have been waiting to hear your insight, friends, as this third round will define who is able to take the first map and find themselves at least in the trajectory of taking the advantage.
And we'll see the Ramatra composition coming in from Rift. One of the differences, though, is that X10 is going to be on that Hanzo, so it does offer a little bit more of that long-range pick potential, but doesn't have necessarily the same utility as something like a Symmetra or like a Mei. So it's really going to be reliant on Exton here trying to find some picks and just holding these angles and seeing if maybe someone gets a little bit greedy behind this Rhino shield and they can find a pick. But the TP comes in and they actually, a great boot from Yamicha to negate the dive.
Not only just the boot, but no one else really follows up onto it, so Rhino gets critically low. Big support play, though, from both Fix and Meter to keep them topped up as they rotate back. The Storm Arrows weren't there from X10 to get the elimination since there was so much of the shield out the gate to deny it. Fix also getting picked up. This support line has kept Afterlife alive for so long, but once they are able to remove this tank from the equation, Afterlife is going to be in such a dangerous position to hold on to this point.
And the thing is that there's not really anything or anyone that can contest the Lucio, or, well, I was going to say the high ground, but there we go. Fix is able to do it right here, and finally looks like the kills are starting to go in favor of Afterlife. Wow. And this is kind of the push and pull of Hanzo, where it's like, if X10 was given a ton of space right there to work with, right? A lot of just free shots that unfortunately didn't hit, and if you're not hitting your shots with the Hanzo, it's not going to be as valuable as something like a Mei or like a Symmetra, where you kind of just have that ability to output the damage much more effectively. So now, Afterlife take up that percentage even more so. Nice wall, AstraZeneca will be able to get out.
Yeah, big props to Afterlife in the way they've been able to play, despite Rhino going down. Just everyone working in tandem to guarantee that they can anchor onto the point. But now when Rhino gets taken down that early by the doorway and a follow-through onto Meter, it's a guaranteed swap for Rift here.
Really good counter wall from Chime there, and now it's just Afterlife trying to stagger as much as they can off the back end of this. But I love the decision making, especially of the Ramatra, being able to just know that you can use that Nemesis form, completely keep yourself alive, and then Chime with a great counter wall to basically completely annihilate Rhino out of the fight. And Afterlife now, they're the ones who are going to have to aggress into this one. A lot of key ultimates coming up in this next fight, Rich. And the big one, though, is going to be Zero with this Photon Barrier. Because of the fact that there isn't one on the other side, splitting this map, especially with a Lucio Baptiste healing line, could make a huge difference here in this next fight.
Yeah, and with how the positioning is coming out specifically from X10 on that 2 double window for the coast area, you can instantly block any of that incoming damage and have to force them down from the high ground to look for a better angle to actually cause some pressure onto Afterlife as they continue to play this high ground. There's the barrier, looking to deny that accessibility. X10 follows in suit, diving forward. The amplification matrix up top from Abyss solely to utilize to sustain through the damage. You have Afterlife now with Rhino a sliver of health to survive. Fix gets the sound barrier out to keep them fluidly moving forward. And Rift, well, they commit the annihilation. You just see Astronex sticking close and buying time for extra percent here to make that gap between the percentages not nearly as fast.
Yeah, I mean, that was just a perfectly played wall coming out from Afterlife, right? I talked about how Zura split the map entirely. The Baptiste was just trying, I mean, you could see, like, the Baptiste was trying his best to be able to heal the rest of the team, but through the wall, it just wasn't going to be able to happen. And now Meter has one of their own amplification matrices, and Rift committed a lot to that fight to try and win that. Annihilation's going to be here for AstraZeneca, but we're looking at last fight territory, and no picks can happen here if you're on Rift into this neutral fight.
AstraZeneca looking to lean in, finding instant value onto those turrets, so they will not give extra assistance. Zura. Annihilation still being held on to. Some dire moments. Absolute necessity. With this duel on the front position, Vortex going to slow the positioning of Rhino as a rotation comes in. Amplification Matrix going to give some extra healing, but Rhino goes down before it can actually come through in the 99 overtime. Rip takes the advantage, and the Annihilation also guarantees to zone back Afterlife.
I think that Matrix was just a little bit too ahead of Rhino right there, because Meter had the moment where they could put that Amplification Matrix down, be able to pump out that healing, but Rhino was behind, or was in front of it, so it didn't get any value. And now Afterlife, both of these teams between them and Rift are gonna be at that last fight territory. Ymitra's gonna have a sound barrier, which is gonna be big because Abyss is coming up on Matrix as well, and no support ultimates for Afterlife. They need to get Zura this photon barrier to have a little bit of negation in this next fight.
Yeah, and if you can get a lockdown onto couple with Lethal's Blizzard, that will be ideal. And even just zoning back, oh, that was almost a takedown onto Abyss, which would have been the best scenario here to deny the Amplification Matrix and solely rely on Ymitra. Cryo Freeze already active, playing forward. Blizzard down, there's the Photon Barrier, TP to get them out of the dangerous situation. On the cusp of the spear, you see that AstraZeneca gets locked down, but the supports come in big once again for Rift to stabilize on that outskirt. Now, Meter, low, needs to recover here, trying to get some healing through, but Lethal goes down before they can get the AoE healing, and the high ground is still being kept by X10, free in the wings to bring them down and shut them out so that they can guarantee this first map win of Control.
Rift take a first one to Control with both of the times using that Ramatra composition. And I talked about X10 a little bit early on in that round, where X10 wasn't necessarily getting the value that you would have liked from a Hanzo on that high ground, but there at the very end, coming in clutch with a couple of picks, yet using that space and positioning effectively and really, really taking it home for that Rift team who take a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, hats off, can't count them out. They were able to turn the dial up, allow themselves to find some value. The interesting pickup out the gate, we'll at least comment on. It was a little bit problematic. Rift was able to counteract against the Bastion play. You can see that Zura at this point had to abandon the tactic, not going to reside any longer. And it was just this back and forth blow for blow that these teams just continue to do because of their position, as I mentioned at the start, and you did as well, and where they stand.
Yeah, I think, again, this composition, like the Trick Room composition, we'll call it, like, I think that it's a good decision. I think it can catch a lot of teams off guard, but Ramatra just seems so good against it, right? You have that shield to just throw up in front of the Bastion. You also have Vortex to make it difficult for the Bastion to rotate, and even then you have your Nemesis form block, which you can just sit in front of the Bastion and basically negate it. So it did work for a little bit for Afterlife sometimes, but for a lot of the time it was just Rift, taking an advantage with knowing that if the Bastion isn't going to be in turret form, this is just an easy fight win for us.
Yep. And again, major props to the supports on both sides. We know these players, the support lines, and what you and I have been able to see over the course of their competitive play. And that moment specifically with AstraZeneca at the end of it when they get locked down by Lethal. Oh, that's unfortunate. Didn't get to see that one earlier in the POV, but well-rounded play. And now that we're going to be deviating away from Control, we do get to see a little bit of that elevation, the dynamic shift, and what we can bring into this, especially because we talk a lot about, the map pool and selection. We've been seeing such a vast variety of maps, which has been a real thrill in the bigger picture versus always seeing King's Row and all of those types of dynamics. And we've been seeing a lot more of the Numbani. We've seen Eichenwald even. I would almost say that Numbani is probably the most go-to pick that we've seen. And then the adjustments to that map specifically compositionally has been also a thrill.
It's good actually, because I think that when we have this meta currently where we have a lot of Winston play, it's nice to see also some of those rush compositions still be bring to the forefront, especially on Lijiang Tower. But we do have our next map. It is Numbani, like you mentioned, Rich.
Let's go.
Think, when we're going to these other maps like Numbani, what was the other one you mentioned? I think it was
Eichenwald.
Eichenwald, yeah.
Eichenwald.
Those are very, very high ground oriented maps, right? You require Winston on every point almost, besides first and third. I think you can get away with running some other things, but this is kind of going to test, I think, both of these teams' abilities to play the Winston more so than anything else. And I think that it's also going to be interesting to see like kind of what we'd see from the DPS line, because, you know, with Lethal in, I think Ashe is definitely a possibility. We saw it a lot yesterday on this map as well. Chime being able to play Echo, I think that's also something that I think is a possibility here, because we've seen a lot of that as well with the skyboxes and geometry you can work with on a map like Umbani. So I think we'll see a difference in stylistics as we go into a map like this, because I think the compositions are going to just have to change in terms of what we've seen so far from both these teams.
Yeah, and with Lethal being on the Ashe, that's a scary thing. We've seen time and time again Lethal with their performance on the Ashe just completely take over. They deny so many entry points, and especially with the couple of choke points here on this initial position, they can really generate that Bob at a rapid rate.
And I think as well, like depending on how the enemy team is going to be operating against it, because I think one of the things about it is like, do you opt into like just the Ashe mirror on first? Because it's so easy on, not so easy, I shouldn't say that, because you still have to like play it effectively, but it is like easy on the defensive end to just be like, oh, I can throw my dynamite into these like small corridors and just frag, right? I'm just going to do a lot of damage. And Lethal is a player who I remember last time when he was back in Contenders with us, he's just like, hey, check the stats, like release the stats, give me my stats. And it was because of how effective he was at just continuously pumping out that damage. As we can see, tweet from Exoblivione coming in.
Ooh,
it's a good reminder. Good reminder to watch EU.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, they've been having some amazing gameplay as well across the board. Like I said, you definitely got to go back and watch Midtown specifically that we had earlier. But you can, again, continue to give us amazing tweets that we can promote for the NA region. Why not do that? Hashtag OWPTP 2023. We are now entering in onto this. Doors opening.
No
Rift
Ashe.
on the attack. And yeah, no Ashe. All right. That's unfortunate.
I am interested to see, though, this matchup between Chime and Lethal, because I think Chime, again, one of those players who is very prolific on like Pharah and like these very air-oriented characters. Lethal as well, I think, is someone who almost can play anything, feels very chameleon-like in his hero pool. So I think that on the defensive end, it's going to be a little bit easier for Lethal to find values. You can already see, I mean, 50% towards that ultimate. Chime is nowhere near sniffing that.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a big opening. Getting fixed with a quick dive like that and denying that extra flux of healing, Meter is going to have a heck of a time to be able to stabilize on this. When the follow-through comes in by Rift, nice sticky bombs as well. Rhino repositions onto the counter position. Up top, great stickies from Lethal at the duplicate, mind you. And they've bought enough time with that to get fixed back in the mix of this and have recovered.
Yeah, and AstraZeneca is going to go down. I think they played that so patiently on Afterlife's side. I mean, there was a very easily a situation where they just get completely overwhelmed by the Ana being down, but Rhino plays his life so effectively, moves to the other side of the point to just basically say you have to choose one of us, and that makes time for the rest of the team to come back. And Lethal already, I mean, at the duplicate, like you mentioned, Chime, not even 50% to his yet.
With a minute 30 off the clock, it's a great start here for Afterlife defensively, playing two-prong attack on this high ground. Lethal gets blown up! You left yourself vulnerable, and Chime says, ding ding, it's dinner time. Shutting them down and now taking advantage onto the position. They are still with a decent amount of time. Will be able to capture and lock this down. Rhino, are they going to go
Yes,
for
Primal.
contention?
Yes, Primal.
Yeah, he does. So he has some safety and wherewithal to look for a juggle off the edge by Abyss. You've entered it, as now the pulse bomb might come back in, but they're going to reserve a lot of these ultimates. They do get the stick onto the shield, but not going to take them down. It's really only X10 that's able to get the assistance down below, eliminating the tank position. Duplicate, pulse, nope. Bigger shield going to deny it, and Rift, after quite a brawl, is able to take this.
Yeah, and I think that all started from, I'm going to be honest, Lethal not respecting Chime there. That felt like very much a greedy situation where he thought he could get that kill, get the assassination, had duplicate, and just got absolutely popped. If Lethal doesn't die there, I think it's a much easier fight for Afterlife to win. So Rift going to be taking this first point, starting to move forward here. A lot of ultimates committed from both of those teams in that last fight. Fix still holding on to the Nano. I wonder where it's going to go here, because we've seen teams kind of opt in to two choices on a map like this. It's either you give it to the Echo and the Echo just goes ballistic, or you give it to Rhino on that Winston, and you can maybe create some space for your team and halt an advancement from Rift.
Yeah, especially with how Afterlife is playing a little bit clustered together with the 3 specifically. If you can get a nice dive onto it, the electric cannon will allow you to get so much influx of damage with that nano boost and the space alongside it. Lethal still residing up on this bus for the moment, dropping down towards the payload, keeping some decent distance. Rift actually going to respect it and draw back for the moment as they keep a watchful eye for Zura, who does have the pulse bomb.
Waiting patiently to see what the pulse bomb can find here. Has to use the recall though early, but Rick should be able to get those packs onto Zura and get him out.
Dashing around the mini pack to secure that they're topped up. Nice dive in. Astro next needs to be very careful. Jumps away as they're healing in time. The Bionade lands and they have to force the Primal Raid. Not wanting to risk it, they go right back in with those stickies. It's a deja vu cycling. In, then out. In, then out. And finally able to recover, getting them topped up and still a few meters away from this next position. X10 rounding the back position. Has that pulse bomb available to land onto potentially either the Tracer play to counter Zura. Nope. The Lethal's gonna swoop in with a tri-shot and the stickies to eliminate Chime.
I mean, Afterlife are completely swarming this Rift team. I mean, you can see kind of the mental ram that's having to be exuded from Abyss and Yamitra to keep the entirety of the team alive, because it feels like Afterlife never stop, right? The momentum keeps going whenever they're in these engagements, whether it's Lethal, whether it's Zura. Lethal, again, this is the second time that this has happened where he's taken a little bit of a greedy positioning against Chime, and Chime has punished him for it.
I feel like this is just ingrained in Lethal's character, though. But even when we interview and talk to them, it's just part of their ethos. It's, you know, high risk, high reward plays is the way they live their life. And now Primal from Rhino attempting to rectify what has happened with the early loss, with Lethal regaining positioning, now still getting some decent shots in back by this checkpoint. Holding the corner. X10 sneaking in closely, has the pulse bomb. Will look to get that pickup onto Meter. As Chime rotates around the high ground, Astronex chasing and following onto Rhino. Wants the pickup so very much, but can't do it. And now the duplicate, Lethal saying, all right, I'm gonna bring the scientists of my own to the table. Double Winnie on the fronty, with Afterlife now attempting to counteract this as X10 gets the shutdown. Rhino, specifically, Lethal does at least get the Primal Rage to cause some juggling and some disruption, but that's only gonna buy them a short amount of time.
Oh, nice pulse bomb though. He's able to take down
my
AstraZenex. That's absolutely huge. If AstraZenex is in this fight, Rhino wasn't here, so that was a potential for Rift to be able to win this one, especially because you look at AstraZenex, 98% towards that Primal Rage. So clutch there from Zura, and now with 51 seconds left and where the cart is at this moment, this is last fight territory here for Rift, and they just have the Primal Rage from AstraZenex to use.
We'll see 40 seconds now. The final moments to attempt the checkpoint. We'll see how they play this. It's so methodical. Buying as much time for the entry as you do have the jump up top from Astronex. Primal active. And when needed, has to play so close to the supports because there is a massive influx of damage from Afterlife in these few seconds with the Primal Rage becoming full-fronted push with a nice sleep here to buy even more time. Bionade lands as well as their follow-through. Big stun. Massive shield from Meter. Zura is down though. Chime for the flank. Nano is here. You talked about either going on the Winston or the Echo, and this is where the Echo needs to cook, and we see more on a play with a duplicate. The sleep accidentally clips the outside of the barrier just fractions of seconds early to not get the sleep, but it's still Rift able to dominate on this final moment. They just have 1 meter left to go. They have to remove the remaining players of Afterlife to not allow them to recover. It's in an extremely difficult position to get a full 5 for Afterlife, and they aren't going to be able to do so.
I mean, Rift, again, in these scrappy fights, seem to just find a way at the very end, and they're gifted another minute and 20 seconds for them to start moving forward, but Afterlife can come back in, ultimates of their own to be able to stop the bleeding, and they just need to win probably just one more fight to close this one out and finally go on to their on an attack of their own. But with Dimitri having this rally, I mean, there is some sustainability here. They just have to play very carefully around that burst damage from the pulsing from Lethal.
Rhino now from the top rope. Just look at active. Lethal going to respond in kind as we saw earlier. A second on the field. Sleep dart just goes wide. Can't quite put the scientists to bed. The juggling Rhino play active in the archway. will at least get woken up, though. There was a beautiful sleep at the start, but communication wasn't able to keep them down for the count, and Afterlife comes back in and holds at the choke.
And let's see. I mean, they're going to see if they can get any stragglers here, if they can take down X10. 1 health finally picked up by Zura. Really well played, and now it's going to be desperation here for Rift. They got to get someone to that point to proc overtime. They should be able to do so, especially with X10 available and respawned in. Nano very close, Primal Rage very close, and X10 Pulse Bomb also something that we need to keep an eye out for in this last fight.
Overtime approaching. X10 has to get some big value with this Pulse Bomb and take an early advantage to gain that distance, because this is such a difficult position to move through. Choke point being held very well by Afterlife. Nano Boost also at the ready, approaching a Pulse Bomb alongside it. Dimitra getting some decent packs. Astro Nex up front has the Primal in case things get a little dicey. Pulse Bomb gets rid of Rhino. That's a massive win condition, but Lethal comes in with 2. A Bionade as well from Fix. Lethal is having a field day right now in these final instances, and with that numbers advantage and cleanup crew, that will guarantee that Rift can push no further, and their mark for victory on this map has been set.
I talked about how Lethal like kind of greeted 2 fights there a little bit, but it doesn't matter. Like if it, like he's so good, it feels like that he can just get away with those types of things and still just absolutely take over a lobby. I mean, Lethal is fragging right now. He's getting a lot of resources, getting the Ana nanos as well, and like really benefiting from them. That entire last play in those stickies were based off of the fact that he got that nano and just completely obliterated the entirety of Rift. And I mean, for Afterlife, for Afterlife, I think they gotta continue to rely on Lethal. I think the way that he's playing currently, just continue to give him the ball. He's good enough to be able to carry you to a win.
Yep, anchor the momentum onto the one that's carrying it home. I almost think it was a 5K for Lethal at the end, wasn't it? Did they get the 5? I'm pretty sure they did.
Might have.
We actually might get to see it here. Yeah, so we've got 2. We're going to play the counting game, friends. We see 2 in the kill feed, 3 in the kill feed. Duplicate onto the Tracer for the 4. Yeah!
He did get 5. Yeah. That's an ace.
Oh! You know what? Everybody else is saying, all right, we're going to let you have it. Just take it. 5 stack. Put that in the reel. Put that in the montage. We literally, you and I have probably seen so many montage-worthy plays from Lethal over our time.
At least this time, instead of yesterday where Vega stole King's ace, this time Afterlife let him have it, so that's good. That's good.
To be fair, though, Lethal did holster that Pulse Bomb to make sure that they could guarantee the takedown, so that's a little different, though. You see a swap of sides now. Afterlife on the attack. Rift is very aware of what Lethal is able to bring to the table on this Echo, even more so now than before. So they will be very closely watching. And Chime has gotten a couple of really good attempts against it because Lethal plays so aggressively. And we'll see if that occurs again, or Lethal will play a little bit more reserve here because they're just getting free tri-shot damage. They focus that instantly. Zura is going to aggress onto Astro, who does go down. Wonderful coordination, and now they're going to want to pick up the rest of the stragglers, and meter going down isn't advantageous for this, but you actually have a trade. It's 2 for 2. Spawn advantage still favors Afterlife here, though.
I mean, Fix is being left alone here just to free fire the healing, so this is a pretty decent position that Afterlife can still just hold. There's no way for anyone to dive, so it's just going to be back and forth until those respawners come, which is going to be Astronex back in, does take down Zura.
Yeah, it gets a long right click from the high ground. Zura's like, where did that come from? As you see them jump forward, landing onto that bus position. Bubble going to get some decent coverage in the back again, just unfortunately not able to hold on to this. Meter goes down, both supports eliminated. Afterlife's got to go back to the drawing board and look for a 5.
And I mean, I think they're coming up, their next step in this ultimate economy is going to be, especially with Rhino being so low and giving Fix that nano, I think they're just going to throw the nano onto Lethal and see if Lethal can find some sort of engagement or some sort of assassination that really breaks it open. But they can do the other side. They can think of the other thing on the side of Rift as well if they would really like to.
Hopefully you can see value from X10 down below with the Tracer Pulse Bomb. Zura comes in lightning fast with the dashes to bypass X10. Okasim Beam, goes a little bit too far. Ionade and the Nano gonna be generated. What a play, but there is focus fire onto that duplicate, so the Ana can't contribute anything more for this, while Lethal just gets it for free the whole time.
there are still 2 members of Rift on the side still alive. You can see X10 and Chime on the side and trying to contest here. There goes X10 back in, and with the Brig, there is the healing available to them, but maybe not enough. Chime gets absolutely obliterated there by the combo of Rhino and Lethal.
This is what we got to see a little bit yesterday, where the Winstons just jump into the air and chase down the Echoes and just saying, I'm gonna melee you, I'm gonna electrify you. Primal range now comes out, juggling both supports back, keeping them away from the team, not allowing them to put forth that healing. You even have the Rally gonna come out too, that massive shield and the stun potential available to continue drawing this out, to dwindle the time, make 1:15 still to go. The second tick hasn't been accrued yet by Afterlife as this fight continues on, similar to what we saw in the control map, but with the side swap. Now, Peter, X10 can't be sticking around for much longer when you have the focus fire of Zura. Pulse Bomb just going to be held this entire time because they have no need to contribute it. They're looking for the long haul, and they transition to the payload phase.
Yeah, I mean, great patience from Zura there, being like, I don't really need to I have the trust in my team that we're going to be able to clean up this fight. Keeps the Pulse Bomb for the next one. Lethal's also able to get another duplicate, and Lethal, I don't even know where this is. I was like, where is Lethal in this scenario? All the way almost by second point, just posturing up, and I love when teams do this. Just take...
Wait. Oh, no! And X10 even saying oops into chat.
That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate, but Zura on the flank here.
Gonna go for round 2. X10 wants to get out of this one. They managed to do so. Taking a moment of reprieve. Pulse Bomb goes in onto Astro next. That's going to put salt in the wound right now and guarantee a massive distance gain. And Afterlife playing so aggressive right now.
I mean, it feels like they've taken... There hasn't really been a fight yet, it feels like. It's just been a lot of posturing, but the aggressive posturing is really favoring Afterlife here. And now Rift is going to have to just take this singular fight, and if they lose, they're going to lose second. And Afterlife has accrued a couple of ultimates that could make it very hard for Rift to come back into this.
Only a few meters left on Unity Plaza for them to reach this next checkpoint for the final stretch. If they get this quick enough, they will have a very healthy time bank to work through this choke position. Lethal hit by the bio, draws back, duplicate onto the Winston, completely nullifies the bio nade, and edging towards that Primal Rage to cause some great juggling, but at this point, they don't even need the Primal Rage to knock them away. They guarantee the checkpoint. The supports are running into their doom because they just need to get back to spawn and recover.
And I think you're seeing a real difference in like the nano usage. It's really just that different because that fight was both of the teams had nanos. One of them decided to use it on their Winston, the other one used it on Lethal, and Lethal just instantly got an assassination, and the Astronex nano didn't get any value. It got absolutely none. They're still going to have both Primal Rages available in this fight, so no harm, no foul for Afterlife.
Yeah, Astronex playing hyper-aggressive as well, attempted to try and gain control of this because they know just how much time is left for Afterlife. They're taking the advantage, and it's only 2 down, and one of those was the duplicate, so it's not a full elimination onto this with Afterlife still having the Primal and the Rally. They can control this position so well with that stun, but they're opting to fall back for numbers of 5.
Just waiting patiently. I mean, they still have 2.5 minutes to work with here, so they know that they can just play it out patiently. They don't need to be as aggressive as potentially as they have been before. I thought those stickies were all on the X10's head.
I did too, but that was just on the edge of the payload. That would have been game over if Lethal lands that. Big Bionade, jump in. Lethal falls back. Focusing beam makes quick work, but Primal Rage is active. The Rally alongside for Afterlife to counteract against it. Moving forward, 4 meters to go. The juggle begins. Astro next with a nano boost to give some extra oomph to push back and deny Afterlife from reaching the checkpoint. Rhino, though, with that big raging horn, knocking them back. Lethal and Zura eliminating both Astronex and X10. It is a matter of time, and they push them away. That will be Afterlife able to make it an even 1-for-1 score. Ooh,
I mean, I remember I said, like, back on Lijiang, I was like, I don't know if I really, like, think of, like, Lethal and Zura as, like, Echo players. I was wrong about Lethal.
Yeah.
This guy is nuts, man. Okay, yeah, just for him, we're going to release the stats. Just for Lethal, and to make up for my doubting of Lethal's abilities, we're releasing the stats. This is a deadlift, by the way. The next highest person in the lobby who has damage even close to Lethal is Zura at 14.5k. Lethal has about 18. Okay, like, I mean, this was
stat. Thank you, Rod, for our stat card.
An absolute Echo masterclass, 34 limbs. 22 final blows, only 4 deaths. Probably could have been less if he didn't ego chime a couple of times, but still didn't matter. It was a great Echo performance, and really, I think, good understanding from Afterlife to just be like, hey, Lethal is just playing on one right now. Let's just continuously give him those resources, give him the nanos, let him really do what he does. And Zura did a great job, I think, as well, playing a much more like resource, less intensive Tracer, right? Yes. I don't think Zura played very carefully around a lot of the time, saving Recall for like those perfect moments. Didn't really need a lot of that help because a lot of that resource was going over to Lethal to get him to a position where he could have this deadlift performance.
My, oh my, will we see a map 5? It's in the potential future. We look at the crystal ball, Kenobi. We may still have magic yet, but with that map already concluding, it is a 1-1 score. It has been a thrill across the board as we start off NA, so we're going to head to a short break before seeing if this continues to wonder us all, so don't go anywhere.
Oh, hello, Fancy meeting you here. It's so nice to see ya. Are you ready to survive the wastelands? Then you'll need to bring your shotgun, your axe, and of course, your knife. For your sharp wit, if you get my drift. Hey, whoa. Hold on there. Don't forget to pick up your Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Yeah, gearing up is as easy as connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. And after that, watching the Overwatch Contender Summer Series will contribute to your drop progression, letting you claim your own wasteland-ready Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Oh, that's right. It's time to rampage. Now, get out there and slay with the Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Okay, take care now. See you in chat.
Hi, back for more. It's a 1-1 scoreline, Kenobi. I really think we have the power. I think we contain the truest of true power to bring competitive Overwatch. And we have now another map, which again has been a very competitive one. I've not seen it yet completed, but, you know, the docking bay is the place that it ends, and we're going to Watch Point Gibraltar to see if maybe one of these teams can surpass what we get to see that rocket ship just look to ascend.
Yeah, the docking bay is where attacks go to die, it feels like, in the middle of second point there. But I think that this is going to be another interesting matchup because we saw kind of a difference in like the Winston compositions from the rush on Lijiang Tower in the first map, and now going over here into this third map, definitely expecting more Winston. Like, the only other thing I would expect would be like D.Va, but people don't really like playing D.Va, I think, at all in the current meta. Winston's just easier. Winston just feels better, especially not having as many nerfs recently as
40+% average likability play and
I mean, but like
performance.
the whole like 40% thing it's a bit, especially because like we had last year where it was like the
True.
grand finals meta had to be like kind of makeshifted at the very end there. But like, I think Winston is like probably the best tank at the current moment, and as we go into Watchpoint Gibraltar, we're going to need to continue to see it because it is such a map that needs like high ground control. You have to have it on a map like this, especially if we're going to be seeing any like long range hit scan where you need to be able to control some of those angles. I think there's a possibility that we do see an Echo still.
Yeah,
especially with how good Lethal was playing it, but there, if you know, on the other side, X10 or Chime are like popping off, and like trying to put pressure onto Lethal in this map where you have like really easy long sight lines to put that pressure down, then I think Lethal will probably have to swap him. Lethal is someone who is a chameleon anyways, and I don't really expect Lethal to have a problem playing like a lot of the readers.
I'm really interested to see how X10 is going to enter into this as well, because we did see some Hanzo play when it came to the control map, and we've seen a lot more Hanzo approach into this, specifically more so towards that second portion when we get into the docking bay, where we had Tristan on occasions do so, others as well be able to gain some real value in a previous broadcast for the NA region at least, and that's where that shift, I believe, can really happen as well compositionally, that they might lean into, because they did still find some late tail end value, even though the introductory aspect of it, of that specific control map round, didn't go as favorable. They still were resilient in their pursuit and were able to contribute quite a bit to that fight.
And who knows, maybe we will see this map completed. You know?
Yeah, right? Maybe we can hope. We'll see the ship ascend. Wouldn't that be cool if you won if the ship actually lifted off?
It does it not?
It doesn't, like, when you win, it doesn't, like, actually, like, launch. Like, the payload reaches the mark, and then, of course, it's like victory!
Maybe I've seen just, like, some...
Maybe there's probably videos of it somewhere.
Yeah. Someone made it in like a...
But not
like
a joined... Yeah, like not a joined specifically with you winning the map. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. You know, we could maybe submit that into like the creative team, and they're going to be just like, really, guys? But maybe you should submit some creative ideas for us at the hashtag OWPTP2023. I streamed like that one pretty darn well, if I do say so myself, Kenobi.
Yeah, I think you deserve a little pat on the back for that one. That was good.
I already did, actually. Nobody can see it, but, you know.
Self-pat on the back. As on the defensive end, this is interesting. No long-range hit scan. This is the double flanker somber tracer look, which is kind of like returning to the basics here. It feels like with what the meta has looked like in a lot of the times that we've seen previously throughout the entirety of the year, it feels like, right? It's been a lot of the somber tracer, Winston double flanker look. And for Rift, it looks like they're going to be opting in for X10 on this Ashe. So Ashe does have those long-range sight lines to play with, but there is a lot of dive lethality coming in from Afterlife. So X10, they're going to have to play a little bit carefully, because you step out of line once and you don't have your defensives or your healers with you, it's just going to be an insta-kill from 3 dive targets.
No pun intended on the lethality comment for Afterlife having lethal on their DPS line or anything. You did it, bro. I just picked it up. Because now we've got 3:30 still to go. You can see the Bionade land. Astronex. Oh, what a Bionade again here coming in. Great recovery, though. Astronex getting topped up for the moment to look for re-entry on this attacking position. But Afterlife still residing in this high ground.
Yeah, and X10, I mean, it's on the low ground, and that's not where you want to be as an Ashe. You want to be able to stay on that high ground, but great job of Afterlife forcing X10 off of that. So this has been a really good defense so far from Afterlife, maneuvering around those sight lines and just forcing X10 out of the fight, because it feels like it's only been really like a 4v5 throughout most of this, because X10 hasn't been able to get that value that we expect from an Ashe.
And look at how close both Lethal and Zura are to their ultimate to utilize in this. Still playing catch-up. Nice hack as well from Lethal. Dynamite chipping away at the health value, making it a little bit more problematic, and also allowing X10 to recoup some of the value lost on this ultimate. Dropping down below, payload has been halted, and Afterlife once again reside on the high ground.
Lethal, very, very lucky. That gets out at 1 health, translocates at the perfect time, and now is able to come back into this fight. He's got EMP available to him. What's he gonna opt in to do with it? He's just scouting,
are they gonna walk in?
Oh, he's gonna...
There it is, the translocate. Threading a needle, my friend. Threading a needle. As they draw back for the moment, they've given up this space for the time being, since the payload has pushed past That car wash angle. Now near the server room, Fix gonna still find an opportunity to top up Rhino with a nice whip shot back to push Astronex out. Lethal gets at least an elimination onto 1 DPS while X10 does the same. Pulse comes through, Chime takes the advantage on the supports, and it is a trade-worthy matchup here between these two. Afterlife just attempting to get away from the juggle, and the mini-pack to hold on has the happiest of happy feet I think I've ever seen in my life.
Meter should be on the show. I shouldn't be alive. Like that. Submit that into there. That was 5 health on that brig. The perfect whip shot to keep himself alive. And Rift used a lot of key ultimates that don't really find any value in it. It was a great counter EMP from Lethal, who is close to another one here, 65%. But Rift have the Bob to try and make this one a 6v5.
I feel like you're hearing Astronex saying vocally, "What just happened?" Like, for real?
I'd be so tempted.
I would be absolutely. Now, Bob online, ready to contribute into this fight. Watching the backline harassment, Lethal again just playing so perfectly and able to get out with these translocates to not find themselves eliminated. Again, they lose a little bit of the value that can be brought during the fights as they translocate out, but with the rotations, Lethal is able to get back just in time to do it over and over again. And Astronex now being combated against by Rhino has to deviate away. Lethal with the EMP, 54 HP, they have to top them up, and they're solely gonna blow up Astronex and look to drop down from on high.
Yeah, Rally is available. They need to actually get on the point if you are Afterlife right here. The Bob is actually doing a lot, and X10, they're just on high ground right now for free.
Free firing target practice for now. Bob drawing a lot of attention away, swiveling the shield, which is why X10 is able to get the damage. Coach Gun even further forcing back Afterlife, but they need to be contesting down below. The server room position is where the supports continue to stick near as Chime with a pulse bomb onto Rhino knocks them out of this equation. 1 meter to go. Nano boosted Yamitra. The raid boss is present. Push him back as we enter into the docking bay.
Oh, it's just so well played from X10 and the rest of the team as well. X10 just using that high ground so effectively. They hit the perfect coach gun onto that nano engage from Rhino. That gives time for the supports to get into position so that the next time Rhino jumps in with that nano, X10 can just fall off and get healed by the rest of his team. Really good peel coming out from X10 there. Now Rift and the rest of the team is going to be able to move forward here through second, where we talked about it's where attacks come to die, but looks like Rift have a good control of this high ground.
Yeah, they've really anchored themselves so well, and Yamitra was flailing just to the left of them so they can make sure that they deny any presence from Lethal, who's been doing a stellar job consistently. Primal now active from Rhino. He's juggling them up into the corner once again. Dives up and repositions instantly onto X10. Can't quite get the elimination. Nice recovery from both Abyss and Yamitra, who does still have the rally. Primal Rage is the only thing that's been contributed in this from Rift. They've been hacked as well, so he has to now draw near to give some extra assistance. Most of Afterlife is being forced down this choke point. The stairway is not where you want to see Fix, all alone and being brought down. While once again, as you mentioned before, Lethal has 1 HP.
And that means Lethal, he can't get into this fight, and there's no way I think that Afterlife is going to be able to contest this one, especially with Zerg going down. And finally, looks like we will see the third point of this map. It's been a very long time since I feel like I've said that, but 2.5 minutes, maybe we'll even see a completion here. I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch, but with Rift coming into this, Pulse Bomb at the ready for Chime, X10 coming in with that Bob as well. They used it so effectively in that last fight, but they do have to be wary of where Lethal is going to be with this EMP going for the backline.
Flips 2, both supports are deleted. Control, Alt, Delete, and they are now going to have to look for a regroup. They're going to fall back, and, you know, like you said, don't count your chickens before they're hatched. I mean, I see some jumbling about a little bit, but they sure haven't cracked.
And I think now Lethal is going over to the Ashe. I probably would have liked to have seen this just a little bit sooner, but EMP is like an ultimate that's very hard to get rid of. But now, finally, X10 will have someone on the other side to be able to deal with those angles, because it feels like a lot of the time X10 has just been free firing from that high ground and being so effective.
You can see Chime going for the duel off the stairway near the Mega. Doesn't take a full engagement, more so just keeping track of where Zura is. And up top, Rhino waiting to dive in. could look for X10, but the coach gun has really been detrimental. Nice dash out. Instantly knows how this is going to turn out. A wicked pulse bomb that goes so far from the mark. With 60 seconds now, Primal could be focused onto the supports, juggling meter or fixed. We saw earlier. It's just so,
I mean,
so
Rift have high
patient.
ground, though. That's the big
Yeah.
thing, is that Rift have these sight lines now to work with here, and that high ground. Is AstraZeneca with Primal should be even able to get more of that space for the rest of Rift to work with.
Payload moving forward, gets a knockback. Sleep! Pulse bomb! Oh! Has just a little bit of help, but Zerg gets those bullets from afar. Bob just coming in saying, hello, goodbye. I'm not going to be on a payload. I meant to clip the wing to keep it going. As they can just hide behind the pack. They don't even need to worry. They're just going to anchor here.
Yeah, and I mean, without the Bob, it's going to be difficult for Rift to be able to get into this fight. They need Astronex back here to be able to start pushing forward and taking that space.
15 seconds. Rift have to make a move here. Their health values are just continuing to be below full value, so they constantly need to cycle back towards Abyss and Yamitra to prepare for the next engagement, and those resources are then out. Sticking close to the payload. Shots come in just behind the shield, getting a beautiful crossfire onto your Mitra, making them have to be wary of where they're maneuvering. Now Nano active up front. Rhino going in with the Primal.
Nice.
Able to get the pickup. X10 down. No further damage. They've been sent back to the spawn, but everyone else here still bolstering it out. Chime gets one on Demeter. He also was close to that rally, but at this point, it's still going to be a cleanup from Afterlife. They're going to deny Rift from gaining completion. We've not seen it just yet, but at least we've been able to see some spectacular fights in that final segment.
And I think this really all changed like when Afterlife went back over to the Ashe, because I think that the Ashe, like X10 was getting so much value for free throughout the entirety of this map, because it was really like the only one that can get to X10 is going to be Rhino a lot of the time, and you have Coach Gun, so you still are able to live a lot of the time when these dive engagements are coming in, and if you don't have anyone to contest those angles for you, then Ana and Brigger are going to be able to heal you no matter what. So I think this was Afterlife probably waiting a little bit too long to switch off that Sombra, but also really heads up play by Rift to be able to say like, hey, if we're just going to go all this space for X10, they're going to be able to carry us.
Yeah, and that first initial point, even though it was extremely close to the overtime, once they were able to get that space, they never let it go until this final moment here where Rhino was hyper-focused, always putting X10 into an uncomfortable position, which then basically let all four other members of Afterlife handle the remaining portion of the team. And now we take the swap of sides. Afterlife does still have the mark set for themselves and will have the chance to be able to surpass and take this victory, but Rift, hell or high water, is going to make sure that they can take this point advantage so that they can find themselves on a match point.
We'll see what Afterlife bring to the table on the offensive end. Are we going to see more of that lethal Ashe? Looks like the Echo is being hovered just at the start to see maybe if he can find an assassination to start things off and just really put that pressure down from afar, but we'll have to respect that hit scan damage coming in from X10.
Fix will be keeping a watchful eye on Lethal too, playing this high ground. Might go diving in for a focusing beam after the sticky bombs land, but actually playing more reserved here, not wanting to risk it because they know looming in the distance, X10 is ready to hit those shots. Dive now coming forward up top. Maybe going to dislodge Rift in this position. Well done. Now jumping again onto X10. They have to abandon ship, dropping below. Astronex gets focused down by Lethal since there was so much room gained by Rhino.
I think this was a great job by Lethal, kind of changing their playstyle a little bit, going over to a more passive style, but also just focusing down Astronex. I think that's exactly what they needed to do there, because if you focus down the tank, that means Rhino is going to be able to move freely as much as they want and take as much space as they want, and if you take that space away from the tank, that means X10 doesn't have any.
Oh, X10! Oh, gets clipped by the Bionade. Fix comes in massive for a sweeping maneuver from Lethal, though Chime gonna clap back, ring the bell, and say, I'm still here, friends. We ain't gonna let this happen. Rhino up top. Afterlife has the high ground, but that means that they can't keep this contested down below.
I mean, they have the high ground, but they don't have any DPS. They're going to eventually be back into this fight. And good on Afterlife for being able to keep this high ground, because it's super important for them to not give that up.
Astronex Max dropping below, utilizing that mini pack as often as possible. Lethal with the nano boost here needs to find value with it. Gets juggled back for the moment as Astro dives up top with the Primal. Duplicate now onto the Brig. I don't believe that was exactly who they wanted, but they're going to have to make it work now. Diving forward, Zura on the pulse, gets Astro next, eliminated from this fight, no longer having the tank to provide that front line in space generation. A Bionade comes in onto 2, though. Abyss does a stellar job, and they do get the checkpoint, and unfortunately fall short.
Yeah, I mean, for Afterlife, you're really happy with this fight. I mean, you got the checkpoint too. Rift used everything that they had. I mean, X10 is going to have the Bob probably in this next fight, but they weren't really part of the fight at all because of the fact that X10 had really no room to work with because of all that space that was taken beforehand. And now Afterlife, I mean, they still have a rally to work with, they have a Primal to work with to make it even harder for X10 to be able to stay in these fights. So this is a great position for Afterlife to be in to try and snowball for a second.
High ground position not nearly taken as much as we saw with Rift due to the compositional differences as they play through the ship itself. Sleep was greatly done onto Lethal, so they've nullified that for the moment. Rally active. Meter jumping forward onto Abyss, looking for a stun. Supports are so low, and this small room is literally a death trap.
Yeah, and I mean, that's exactly what I was talking about, where it was just like a singular fight win that you needed here on second. The rally just too much for Rift to deal with, and 4.5 minutes about for Afterlife to basically complete the map. I mean, this is very, very difficult defense for Rift to have here. X10 still not yet towards that buff, should be able to get it in this next fight, but Afterlife, I mean, Primal Rage is still there, and X10 doesn't have a lot of room to work with either to dodge any of it.
Chime getting some decent pressure onto Fix. Left in the corner, evaded the dart. No sleep for now. All on land another time. X10 holds towards the box of victory. Down below, though, again, can't risk playing on this high ground because that's an opportunity here for Lethal to play forward, find a focusing beam, or even leaving themselves completely open for Rhino to dive onto, but the pressure onto the health values for Afterlife are a little problematic right now.
Yeah, Afterlife just trying to play this as safely as possible. They know they have time to work with, they know they have ultimates to work with, and I would expect that most likely going to try and either put this nano onto Lethal like they're doing right now, and X10 obliterated, but X10, they did get the Bob out.
Making sure that it's contested on the point. Knocked away by the Primal from Rhino so they can continue keeping this payload moving forward. Great heads-up play. Lethal taking an off angle. Goes for the Ana. Bionade lands. Rhino has a sliver of health and can't get topped up as X10 now opts to go for the Widowmaker. Looking for that one shot, one hit, long-range potential. Gets one, and the rest follows suit from Rift with now 3 minutes and still a tall mountain to climb.
I mean, with Rhino not here, there's no way that they're going to be able to hold at this point. X10, I mean, the Widowmaker swap, I think, worked well at the very end. They were able to get 2 picks. Now going back over to that Ashe, seeing if they can find a way to get a little bit more space to work with here. But you're right, Rich, this is a very, very hard defense to continue. With 3 minutes, there's probably like 1 or 2 more ultimate rotations. The rallies from both of these teams are going to make this fight a little bit of a mess here, but I think if you're Rift, you need to be very careful that Astronyx does not go down early here, because Lethal does have assassination potential.
Yeah, we saw it earlier where Lethal just took this off angle and found them separated. They could just collapse on this right here. Does have to jump out, have the cooldown up in time. You can see the Chime also going to evade and elude the supports for now. The TVT continues up the stairway. Meter barely gets out, dashes forward in the corner to mitigate some of the damage by just removing themselves from the sightline. Chime and X10 so very low, but topped up. Well done by both Abyss and Yamitra. Rally to counteract now that Meter has already expended theirs. Chime with the full spot needs to get something here, again, to stifle this push forward. It's just over a meter. These ultimates need to hit Pater because they are working with very little, as you see 3 coming online for Afterlife.
See the TVT here between Chime and Zura just trying to fight for that positioning on the sideline. Hit onto the Ana.
Big bio hits both. Yamitra dashes back with a dive, comes in swiftly. Rhino gets both supports, and they make quick work on a stellar duplicated play onto Lethal. What a wonderful display. Team kill right in the end of it. Ring the bell. The ship is ready, and it will ascend to the moon.
I mean, Rift put up a decent fight at the very end there, but that one dupe onto the Ana from Lethal just completely, with the anti-nade, all of the shots that he was hitting, completely tore that fight open. And again, I just think it was really good at the start of the attack for this entirety of the Afterlife team, right? They played it effectively. They knew exactly what they wanted to do. They were going to focus down Astromech like they did right here, take away all that positioning from X10, and then it was just as easy to do, like, second, third, a little bit more of a difficult proposition, but they eventually got it.
Now we have the advantage in favor of Afterlife, getting that final checkpoint reached. They'll see it themselves and feel confident on this match point. And as we talked about where their current standing is, it is vital for them to gain this, because being in that 8th and floating 8th position is ideal to just guarantee that spot as we get closer and closer to playoffs. This is such a nutty play at the end, right?
I think
here,
Lethal hit every shot, actually.
Every one of them.
I think that's why you got that nano so quickly. And then they nanoed the duplicated Ana, which must have felt good for a little while. Unfortunately, everyone was dead, so it didn't matter too much, but still kind of a cool thing to happen to them. But for Afterlife, I mean, they're looking really clean, especially on that map where, again, I like that they had kind of this game plan in mind to, like, focus down the tank and have Lethal play, like, a little bit more reserved, at least on, like, first point at the start, because I think that you could have gone out and been, like, very aggressive and not respected the damage potential from the Ashe. But after that, I mean, we saw a lot of those replays, just fantastically coordinated dives, right? Every time you see that it's like Lethal diving in, just full stickies onto one of those members who don't have a lot of mobility to get out of those fights, and right next to him is Rhino. So I think a lot of the time these coordinated dives were really, really impressive from Afterlife, and that made the difference to me in that matchup.
And something that's impressive is that of where we're going next. It's going to be a push map, and where do you think we're going, fam?
Coliseum.
No other than Coliseum.
It makes sense.
It does. It very much does. And then also it's a time for us to kind of sit back, chillax a little bit for probably the first 2 to 3 minutes of this match, unless something goes extremely wild on us. But speaking of also some extreme wildness, and not really that extreme, it's a nice opportunity to get this change up. We're going to have Afterlife substitute someone.
Yeah, Iron is going to be coming into the lineup, which is... Iron is someone who, like, we kind of knew about going back over to, like, when Redbirds was, like, really in their prime. Having Iron, I think, was someone who maybe some people don't know about necessarily too much, because there was a little bit of a break for Iron, but Iron, very, very gifted off-tank player. I think, like, one of the best that we had, and a lot of people said so back when he was really, like, in a lot of these teams and a lot of these Contenders players. So I think that bringing in... to this matchup, I wonder if it's, like, just a Ramatra thing, because I don't think that there would be, like, a main tank thing. They wouldn't sub out Rhino if it wasn't for, like, an off-tank more style, or, like, the Ramatra or something like that. So that's what I would expect Iron is here to play. I don't think it'll be Sigma on Coliseum.
Could you imagine? That'd be wild.
I think Sigma is good on one map, and that's Circuit Royale.
One map and one map only.
That's it. You can play him on Circuit Royale. You can maybe play him on Shambali, but you also just can play Ramatra and just be a better hero. So yeah. I'm expecting probably Ramatra more so than anything else here, especially because Astronex on the other side, the times that Rift have looked really good was on the Ramatra composition. So they probably just want a handshake there and just be like, yeah, we're going to be totally fine playing this.
Absolutely. And we get to see already what that looks like a little bit from yesterday, where it was this Ram v Ram in that choke position, continuing to just mitigate a lot of the incoming damage with the shielding, looking for that chip potential until there's an opportunity to get that one shot hit potential. We did have a lot of the Mei kind of thrown into the mix there as well. Curious to see if that's going to be an aspect going into this because of the DPS that we've already seen before, or even just adjusting into some of those, you know, either it's going to be maybe some of the Ashe or maybe the Sojourn. That was another very reliable pick that was coming through and gaining value, where we saw PGE dominate on several occasions. Almost a full deadlift. I think at the end of it just got away from them.
Just lost it at the very end. But I mean, they were very close to a deadlift there. And I think going into this matchup, Lethal can definitely, I know for a fact Lethal can play the Sojourn, and like Zura can play the Mei. So if that's something that they want to opt into, totally, I think you're totally fine if you're Afterlife in that regard.
Or the hidden lethal power of the Reaper. As strange as it might seem, we saw that surprise factor when it came all the way back with Redbirds.
That was when Reaper was like really good.
Yeah, I know.
That was grand finals.
Yeah. It was grand finals meta, but it was still a fun meta nonetheless. So as we're going to be entering into Coliseum, we will have our questions be answered, compositions decided, and whether this will be a conclusion to this series or we shall continue to exude our powerful influence on map 5ers, Kenobi.
I mean, it would just make it. I think that would mean that every game we've cast so far, the first game of every day has been a map 5.
It really would be.
We're really we're
just consistent.
We're men of the people, giving them their ability for skins. You know, chat. You're getting your Junker Queen skin. You're getting your Torbjorn skin. You're getting your drop. Like you're getting drops. You're welcome.
You know, people always talk about, consistency in your work and the ability to perform at a high level. You know, at this point, I think the consistency of work is this right here, where we can look to shoot for map 5s. That's the one thing I'm loving to keep consistent, is we aren't going to now have these seconds dwindle, 20 to be exact here before we reach that neutral zone and see who is going to gain the coveted first elimination and those first few meters.
Yeah, and I wonder how much. Should we start the timer to see how long it's gonna take for the first?
What are you thinking? What are you thinking? 2.5?
I'm okay. I'll take the over on 2.5. No, I'll take the under.
You'll take under 2.5?
I'll take the under 2.5 because they'll have ults at that point. And there's
you know what? Let's be real. Let's say under 2 or over 2. I'll go over 2. You go under 2.
Okay,
we'll do that. We'll do that. I think that's a good threshold. I think 2 minutes is reasonable, especially when you've got Sojourn coming out against X10 on this Hanzo.
Yeah, I think Hanzo kind of changes this dynamic a little bit because Hanzo is like very much like a one-shot. Like any arrow that can go through is just like a one-shot onto the head. So Afterlife has to play very carefully. Nice anti-nade to start things off, but actually Afterlife, they're not going to let us podcast. They're going aggressive here, not just standing on ceremony, but already Nemesis has been, Nemesis form from Iron has been used, so they have to back up a little bit and give it a short bit of space away, but now we're going back to Poku phase.
I feel like this is a Price is Right game for us, where it's like over-under for 2 minutes at Coliseum. Like, who's going to win the game for the vehicle that's sitting in the window? Zura gets the pickup. It was under 2 minutes. Somebody goes down. Kenobi's the victor. GG's for him. As now we're going to see if it continues to move in that same direction. Nice counterplay pick, though. Headshot comes in. Zura can't be here much longer, as you've got Iron now rounding that inner pillar. The distance has been accumulated, and Iron finds 2.
I mean, this is really cool for, I think, from Afterlife, where they just played this super high tempo, like really just got into the faces of Rift and didn't really let them like stand on ceremony and start to poke, which I think is exactly like the thing you want to do against this composition, because you know Hanzo's on the other side. If I give Hanzo time, eventually like an arrow's just going to find a head, a 100 grade A mahogany log is going to hit me, and we're going to lose the fight. So Afterlife did the smart thing and just said, hey, we're just going to go aggressive, take that space away from X10, and now we have a lot of positioning to work with.
And even X10 is having a difficult time finding a sightline around this wall, because there's so much value that's being brought from what Afterlife is doing, not only taking and moving up amongst this high ground with the Sojourn mobility, but the Blizzard now, when they dive into this, the nano-boosted Astro Next walk around doesn't get anything, takes a stroll because they can't even get back into the fight.
Oh, that wall was so good. Annihilation there is here, though, from Astronex, and that might be enough. I mean, Rifter using everything to try and win this fight. Iron's here now with an Annihilation of his own.
No.
Astronex needs to get out of dodge.
They're not gonna do it. They're gonna do it. They take the fight despite the investment from Rift, and they're gaining the checkpoint for the butt scratch.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about like over-under for like when the fights are gonna start. It's taken 2.5 minutes for them to get first checkpoint. I can't remember the last time I've seen that on Coliseum. Like, it's been a hot minute. As Afterlife are going to retreat here, I think, because I don't think they have their Baptiste in this fight, so they need to probably get out and wait. Oh, that boop was so scary. That could have been an easy 3K, but Afterlife get out of dodge. And now this is where, like, Coliseum becomes, like, one of the hardest maps to play, because now we just reset to neutral, right? And if you're Afterlife, you just hold the bot here because you have such a lead. You know that the time is, like, the most important resource now for Rift, and you just hold. You hold as much as you can.
You just look to your partners and say, hold the line, boys, we got this. wall blocking Chime, having to play a little bit more forward, going up into that nook, but look at Zura playing hyper aggressive and now gonna get locked down into the Blizzard because they overstayed their welcome and they couldn't get themselves out of that position, so they lose the overclock. Fix goes in with the sound barrier, but it only clips Meter and themselves. Iron has to regress back with Lethal, and this is a chance now for Rip to actually gain a decent amount of distance.
Yeah, Afterlife are trying to leave here, but a nice wall is going to be able to get that Chime from Chime. Is going to be able to get Iron secured. 6 minutes now. And actually, oh, I love this decision making from Rift. They're going aggressive. They're not letting Afterlife just stand on Ceremony, trying to get as much meterage as they can at the current moment. This will also be good to set up X10 with some nice long sightlines to try and find a pick before Afterlife can get back into this fight.
Yeah, don't give them any breathing room. Do not allow them to recover from this. Oh my! Iron! You getting smelted right now. You melting down. Your supports come in clutch to keep you going. Nice Ravenous Vortex in the back there, but there's a sound barrier that still keeps them topped up. Yamitra saving Rift as they draw back into this neutral area. They don't want to overstay their welcome until they can re-enter with a more dominant applied pressure, and you will see them clean this up and now in a prime position to actually finalize these last couple of kills and get the checkpoint themselves.
I mean, you saw Zura being so aggressive there, but Chime put the perfectly placed wall in front of Zura's engagement, and you can see Zura's actually just opting to go over to the Hanzo, wants to match 1v1 because knowing that the Sojourn just hasn't been working out, needs a little bit more of that long-range potential to put pressure onto Rift, who have 4 ultimates to work with you.
And because of the butt scratch, it bought just enough time for Afterlife to come back and deny that extra few meters necessary to surpass the distance gained. 2 picks come in, both supports are down. They have held on here, but with still gaining that checkpoint is so vital for Rift.
Yeah, and I mean, this is one that you probably just take on the chin if you're Rift, right? You get out a couple of key ultimates, the Blizzard and the Matrix being those 2, because now you can come back in with Nano either onto Chime or onto AstraZenex and just completely take over this fight, because there's no defensive ultimates for Afterlife to work with. It's just going to be off the back of maybe an immortality field for them to try and win this, or Zura finding a pick in the neutral somehow with the Haunter.
X10 keeping a watchful eye on that outer side. Who but needs to be very watchful themselves on where the damage is coming in on the opposing wall. Nice Vortex, lockdown 2, Fix gets out, thankfully, with the assistance of Meter. Zura! Oh my, that was dangerous. You get topped back up to keep steady. Nano, active. Astronex, Annihilation has been unleashed, chasing down Meter, who gets out with the boots. Go up top, while the flanking position and the forward momentum from Iron attempts to counteract the back line of Rip, but they hold on as well. They are able to recover from this and now can look for the advantage.
That was such a good bait from Rift there, where they know that like AstraZenex after Nemesis form and after the wall is going to be jumped on, but they just wait patiently for that Nano to be put directly onto the Annihilation, and they win the fight via that. But Afterlife have to respawn here and are trying to stall before the meter just goes either way.
Sound barrier from Afterlife, clipping 4. Lethal still needed to get back into this, though, to assist. They're coming back from the spawn. Iron takes down Abyss, which is so critical. Same again here. Both supports eliminated in this position as we saw in the previous fight, so it's going to be brought back once again and denies the advantage for Rift.
This is so back and forth here. I mean, there, the fight started with Zura getting a nice pick onto X10. Finally, I think Zura is like starting to step up a little bit after making that swap to the Hanzo, matching mano-a-mano with X10, and now Afterlife get back into this enclosed area. Blizzard at the ready, Dragon Strike at the ready, and in these enclosed areas, those are 2 ultimates that can just win fights by themselves.
Iron needs to be careful, though. The Dragon Strike just behind them. Great awareness to move forward, to not be in the midst of it, to get chipped away. Nemesis form won't be much longer, though. In this corner, the May play from Lethal. A Icicle that just got boosted. Gets the execution onto Astronex and turns the fight here in the end.
Sleeping at the end. Meter just gonna take a little nap. Surprised no one bagged.
Yeah, I am also surprised. You know, that teammate love.
That's usually something that I see.
Teammate love.
That's usually something that I see between support players. But now Afterlife are going to be able to take a little bit more meterage for themselves moving forward. Nice wall from Lethal to negate some of those sight lines, and now up on this high corner, both these. Ooh, that's a lot of damage that Afterlife is taking, actually.
Yeah, and that was a great vortex because everyone was clustered together just around the corner. They need to push forward, though. Iron aggressively to counter Astronex, who had the Annihilation and got nanoed and is still getting blown up. There was so many resources put into Astronex. Even though Astronex goes down, everybody else is able to fall into suit. They have to deny Zero, which they finally do, and can look for a contention pushing forward. Lethal at this point is just looking to buy some time, cause some dismay, but they're back to spawn as well.
I mean, if you're Afterlife, though, I think you take that fight 9 times out of 10, right? You get a nano and you get an annihilation for a fight that was just that scrappy, and there's only a minute left, and Rift, I think, even if they do win the fights here in the neutral, they're going to have to at least win one more by the spawn doors. And for Afterlife, you look at them, another Blizzard is going to be here for Lethal. Chime is going to find their own as well. The big thing, though, Rich, the sound barrier from Fix way ahead of Yamitra. If Afterlife want to set the tempo and go aggressive in this fight, they absolutely can.
Yep, they have the moment now to close this out, denying us a map 5, breaking our magical prowess of entering into these extra rounds. Quick cleanup, though, onto Iron, but Astronex falls in suit 1 for 1. Chime gets the wall up in time. Can they escape? And they elude the incoming fire.
See if Astronex can get back into this fight. They're not actually going to move the bot. This is so smart. I love this. They're not going to move the bot. They're just going to hold it here in this tiny corridor, because you look at that, Zera has that Dragon Strike available to him, and in this enclosed area, it's going to do wonders at zoning them off the bot and potentially just finding a pick potential with one of those DPS.
The only help is that Rift does have the chance to at least keep it touched for the moment just by the wall where they're not too... Oh, no! 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 Why? Oh my goodness! We've not had one yet in our 3 days of broadcast, and that one was an absolute Charlie the Ninth.
I think I have to imagine that they thought that they got on point, like, before, like, or after the 3 seconds, right? They, like, touched after the 3 seconds, and they thought it would stop the overtime.
So that's the thing. It's because that wall right there, when you get close enough, it keeps it contested, so it moved forward. It took 2 steps far. Chime didn't recede back into it in time.
That is the only thing I can think about how that happened. Like, they just thought that they had gotten the overtime already because of that 3 second thing that we have, where it's like if you touch the point by 3 seconds, you're able to get in. And I think they thought that they had it, but it was probably just like maybe a second or two too early, and they just thought that they were going to have overtime, and they didn't. So it definitely looked like that's how they were posturing for that fight, but that is an absolute heartbreaker. That's that is Charles the Ninth times infinity. That one was brutal.
Because you saw it. Chime just got in there. Here it is. Just made to touch it because they were far enough in, and then they go for the second one, and it's too far away. It's just out of their reach because... Oh, no. Oh, the chat. Oh, the chat.
Oh, that's a brutal one. That's a really brutal one.
I gotta walk this one out. Like, I'm pacing back and forth.
I was watching it, and I was like, surely they touched on time. Like, surely surely. And I was like sitting there. I was like, it was like dwindling down. It was like 2, and then it was 1, and then I was just like, oh, there's no way.
Oh, wow. Well, you know, we talked about us having amazing, powerful energy to reach a map 5. Well, it all went one direction of the bell curve.
Honestly.
To the exact opposite of the bell curve.
There is no power greater than the power of Charles the Ninth. Even our power to take map 5s is incomparable to just teams C9ing on the... Like, that was brutal.
We'll need a moment.
I feel bad for...
Yeah, we'll need a moment to let that one simmer. I guarantee all of you in chat need a moment as well. So we're going to head to a short break before getting an interview with Rhino, who I guarantee you is going to have a few choice words about that last map. So don't go anywhere.
You like solving problems. Problems like how to stop that tracer from deleting your backline. I know just what you're thinking. Go bring a turret. But y'all can't solve all your problems by simply bringing an extra friend to the battlefield. For that, you need the Contenders Torbjorn skin. solve your problems by connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim your Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin. Even your turret gets an upgrade. Warning, the Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin does not come with extra or upgraded turrets. Build instructions will not be provided. By picking Torbjorn, you waive a claim towards any destroyed turrets. No refunds, no exchanges, and no take-backsies.
We're back, friends, after we have had a solid few minutes to settle ourselves after a spectacle that we just had in front of us. We have the opportunity of speaking with Rhino from Afterlife, who have been able to take a win, a 3-1, no map fiver, C9 to top it off. How you feel, my friend? You said you were playing a game while you were, just kind of chilling and sitting in the wings. What is that? What was that?
Yeah, just I play chess, so I don't work myself up over the game. Like, I'm still watching, I just have it split screened.
Chess is good for the mental exercising, so I think that's good. But walk me through a little bit about this series, because I think that kind of going into this one, it felt like it was very much a must-win for both of the teams, especially trying to fight for that 8th spot, trying to get into playoffs at the very end of it. But something I want to talk about with you in particular is that, like, this combination between you and Lethal, specifically when we were in Gibraltar, like, how has that coordination been? Because it looks extremely clean between the both of you, and is that just something that you are just used to playing with, or is it like communication that you are like actively trying to go in with Lethal?
It's kind of just communication that we're actively trying, because like you said, like, we're fighting for the 8th spot and we just should not be with the roster we have. And like, it's the matches we've lost so far has not been any individual's fault, it's just been team fault. Like, we genuinely have not been able to coordinate or do anything as a team. But just recently, we've actually wanted to win and wanted to coordinate with one another and telling each other what we want to do. So like, when it comes to me and Lethal, it definitely helps a lot, especially because we're both really aggro, and it's just fun playing with Lethal too, so I think that helps a lot too.
So talk to me a little bit more about the communication aspect of it, because you're saying that, with the individuals you have on the roster and the way that you've been playing, and there's been, some unfortunate turn of events with the team composition as a whole, you really started to show up today, so much organization. What else has really aided you in that communication outside of just you and Lethal?
I don't know. Like, I think our coaches have been doing a lot to help us, to just get us on the same page before maps and whatnot, and just focus us up. And I think it's just, we have to, I think our coaches, yeah, it's mainly our coaches, they just were like, you guys have too many expectations for one another, and you're not actually, like, really saying what you want to do as much. And I think that's fair. Like, that's a fair point. Like, we are good players, but we can't expect everything from one another. And when we do, we're just gonna lose. Like, we're what, like 2-4 right now, 3-4, something horrible. Like, it's really bad. But we've started to pick it up, and I think it just gets a lot better. And I also think when we're actually all hard calming, it's good. But sometimes we just have too many cooks in the kitchen, and like that's another reason why Coliseum was like a dogfight. Like some of those fights, we just were calming way too much, and we couldn't understand one another, so we let them get some free fights that we shouldn't have. But it's whatever.
Okay.
So is there like, in terms of like the communication, do you have like a designated shot caller, or is it sounds like it's very much by committee based on like what I'm hearing in terms of like there are some moments where there is like a lot of calming going on. Is there like someone who is kind of at the forefront of trying to get the communication at the start, or is it just like very much that community style?
I mean, usually one of us, sometimes usually me, before the fight, we just try to get a basic plan as to what we want to do. But we also want whoever has their ult to make the plan for their ult and tell people what they want to do. That's what I was saying earlier, like, I don't know, if we have Silge ult, we need to, like, do something to go force out lamp and, like, just basic stuff, but, like, telling each other what we want to do just helps us get so much more value. And besides that, our comms are pretty just all around. Like, no one's really dominating comms, in my opinion.
Okay, awesome. Well, it's nice to get that, insight to understand kind of what the communication culture is for you and, moving forward. And realistically, with what you've been able to put on today and what we can continue to see you grow with, and it's fantastic to see that the coaches are being able to bring that information to the forefront for you and your team to really be able to adapt to guarantee that you can get that 8th spot and find yourself in the playoffs where it's almost like a moment of redemption. There's still some games, though, ahead of you. So excited to see how that continues to unfold. Wishing you the best of luck, and greatly appreciate all the time at which that you've had with us, and looking forward to seeing how you guys continue on through the rest of the games.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hopefully,
yeah,
I can see you again in the near future.
Let's go! That's how you gotta talk about it. You're just like, yeah, no, if anything, I'd be like, no, we are, and you are going to talk to us again.
We'll talk to you again. We'll talk to you again.
Yeah, we will.
All right, take care, Rhino. Thank you so very much for your time.
Yep,
thank you, Rhino.
Have a good one.
Ah, Kenobi. It was so good. It was so good, and it was so bad at the end of it for one instance.
That's one that I'm never gonna get over. I don't think. I mean, that is one. Maybe we didn't get map 5, but like when we cast an end of a series, there's usually something that happens. I think that's usually where our bread and butter is. But we can actually, I think, looking forward with like this Afterlife team and like what like the prospects of them for earlier. I really like kind of like what Rhino was saying, where it's like, yeah, we have this team that's like really good and we really shouldn't be here. And it's nice to see that the team is like actively trying to fix those types of things. And I think that's an indication of the team growing. And I definitely think now with a win like this, they can use that momentum to really try and get themselves toward that 8th seed and get into playoffs. Because I think this is a team that, like, if you see them in playoffs, like they're a very talented roster. Like, even though they would be like a 7th or 8th seed, like, it would be a very dark horse team for me.
And it's just the acceptance factor, like not allowing yourself to be caught up by like ego in that sense, and knowing that, yes, like this is extremely viable and, sometimes critical feedback, but it does make a vast difference in their performance and what they really did have today. And it's exciting again to see it. We can take a look at the score here, as we do have it going to be 3-1 Afterlife to Rift. We've got one more game coming up here for this evening. Hopefully it's going to be just as wicked as the word that I couldn't remember yesterday comes to the surface today. Too. Did I really? Oh, I did? Yeah, I didn't even know it. See, my subconscious is playing heavy. But yeah, it's going to be Wisp versus O3 Splash, so don't go anywhere. We're looking to get that game underway in just a moment, my friends.
Oh, hello! Fancy meeting you here. It's so nice to see ya. Are you ready to survive the wastelands? Then you'll need to bring your shotgun, your axe, and of course, your knife for your sharp wit, if you get my drift. Hey, whoa. Hold on there. Don't forget to pick up your Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Yeah, gearing up is as easy as connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. And after that, watching the Overwatch Contender Summer Series will contribute to your drop progression, letting you claim your own Wasteland-ready Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Oh, that's right. It's time to rampage. Now, get out there and slay with the Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Okay, take care now. See you in chat.
Another game, another bundle of excitement. That's what we're hoping for in this last one, because we had a barn burner and a extreme change of events towards the end in our previous one. So now we get to have another opportunity to chit-chat about two teams, which I think is still going to be a good one, and curious to see if anyone can take down Goliath. That is O3 Splash, as you can get those predictions in, 1 for Wisp, 2 for O3 Splash, who is on a tear. Yeah. Honestly, Kenobi, they have solidified themselves as the top dog right now and are continuing to do so even before we get into the playoff stage.
Yeah, I mean, this team looks really, really strong. Obviously, you do if you're undefeated. I mean, the thing about the strength of schedule that they've had is that they've had, I mean, I think it's Strix and this team in O3 Splash who have played like the most 3-2s.
Yeah.
Like, they've had a lot of 3-2s. I mean, I think that this team hasn't necessarily played like this is, I think, what would be considered their first litmus test besides the timeless series that they had in round 5. Because I think this is really where it's like going to determine if there's like a huge gap between them and like the other part of the bracket of the group stages, or if there's like, or if it's a little bit more close. Like, that's kind of what I'm looking at with this matchup, because O3 Splash I think is favored, but Wisp, with the talent that they have, with how good they were last season as well, I think there is a fight that could be put up here against this O3 Splash team that when we have seen them, they've looked incredible. I think that they have all of some really good pieces, but we can look at the Wisp roster first to kind of try to talk about their team a little bit. And I think when you look at the Wisp team, changes were obviously made from like last season. There is like, you know, Seonjin coming in. I remember Icy talked about it during the interview, that Seonjin is just an amazing player, like just incredibly gifted mechanically, as someone who, especially in like a tracer role where tracer's like so prevalent, it feels like you kind of need that. And it's wild because this team has 2 incredible tracers on this team.
Yeah, Rocket the other to work alongside, and that gives them, you know, kind of a versatile pool of what they can play, shifting between the 2 of them. But, you know, talking a lot about the DPS, we can't go without recognizing this support line as well. Magic, Maytball, and Squid we've seen have so many pop-off moments. It is unreal, the consistency that we get from this support player. So all around, this team, I do really think, is one to actually combat against this O3 Splash, as we can take a look at their roster with, again, a ton of names that we know and that we are very well versed with.
Yeah, I think that this O3 Splash team is a lot of like very single mechanically like gifted players. I think like when I look at like Infected, right, how much he's grown as like a player, coming in as like very much, you know, a Ball was like kind of where we really saw Infected start to pop off on, and like with that Trick Room comp, Boat has grown from like when we were watching him in Northwood as like this player who can really like I think Hanzo was like the thing that I saw him play like most of, but now has grown into a very good tracer player. Lukewarm, the Sojourn has looked great. Neutral, I think, is like the player though for me who's kind of like come out of nowhere and been incredible. I mean, going back to even Collegiate earlier this year on that Rutgers team that got top 4, when that team really wasn't expected to go that far, a lot of it came down to Neutral's flex support play. And the last time we saw O3 Splash on broadcast, I think Worldwide had nightmares about Neutral because of how many times anti-nades were hitting, how good this guy was playing. So I think that this team overall are so gifted individually, mechanically, but the fact that they're 6-0 tells me that there's a lot of really good cohesion to this team as well, which is amazing to see, because this is kind of like a lot of different parts of really good teams brought together.
Yeah, and if you didn't highlight the support line as we were going through that roster, I was going to do the same thing, because Neutral is scary. A demon in the back that can really contribute so much for this team, as you mentioned.
Oh, there's 7-0.
And there's actually 7-0. Yes, it did get updated. That's right. We did just complete another round prior, so they are in a very dominant position.
They beat the brakes off of Strix.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, it was 3-0. Okay. I mean, they've had 4, if I'm not mistaken, of the 7 all go to map 5, and then all the others alternatively are 3-0. So again, we could get one or the other. We could get a Swifty, or we could get a long one. So we're entering into our first map, which is going to be Ilios for Control. Haven't quite seen it that much, as we are curious to see if out the gate Wisp is able to put up quite a fight.
And just as an update as well for Wisp and what they did in their previous round, they lost 3-1 to Saints. It was relatively close, I think, based on the map score that I can see here and some of the stuff in that I'm looking at. But got to talk about this matchup between both these two teams. Again, this is what I kind of see as like a good litmus test again for Wisp and like how close they are to the top, and if O3 Splash is like really kind of that far and away ahead, being as undefeated as they are.
We want to make sure that you get those predictions in. We touched on it before, but we're going to do it again, because this one, I feel, out of many that we've had, that you talked about it being like 40-60 or like 45-55 or like kind of within those realms. This one I feel is going to be a little bit more one-sided. And the other part that I love about this too is it's the battle of the elements. It's the battle of fire versus water.
Is Wisp a...
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like fire, right?
Aren't Wisps like light energy or something? Or...
But like, you know, light does produce heat. Right? Like, come on! You gotta give me that! Like, come on, man! Please, come on! Even a flashlight produces heat. Like, because it's, like, battery-powered. It's light, man!
I mean, okay.
Give me that! Give me that!
Nothing you've said is wrong.
It's
just funny. It's just...
Okay.
I don't know. Well, because I don't know, like, I guess because, like, when I think of Wisp, I think of Will-O-the-Wisp from, like, WoW, right? Like, those are...
Yeah.
They're not made of fire.
How about we do this? How about we do this? Okay, so the whitish gray part of the face is like air, and then the outside orange is like fire. And then on the other side, you have like the leaf green with water. So you have all four conjoining elements opposing one another, but fueling the other, because water allows greens to grow. And then you've got wind, like air, that fuels fire, because it like makes it continue to grow, like when you're building a fire. Like, I'm taking this so deep right now. You cannot deny me. This is actual scientific fact. What are you gonna do? If I had a mic, well, I'm not gonna drop this mic, but I would totally drop a mic. I would drop the mic for that one. What are you gonna do?
I think you could have just said like it's Avatar, and that would have been like good.
That would have been the easy route. That would have been an easy route. I want to go the difficult route.
I mean, you brought a chair into the broadcast for about 3 seconds of content, right here, so you know, you know what? I respect it. But I think that like this matchup, I'm really stuck on now this like whole element thing that you're on. So
let's go.
So you're telling me that like the water. The plants are planted, and then the water fuels the plants, but also the heat fuels the plants. But what does the air do?
Well, no, because again, it's to their respective elements. So air, like, you need oxygen to have fire, because if you cut off oxygen, there's no ability for the fire to flourish. So Wisp, in the center...
oxygen air? Is that like...
Really? Really, bro? Aren't your parents PhD holders? Like doctorates?
Yeah,
like
they
you're
are.
really gonna do this right now? I will send this clip to them after this broadcast.
I mean, I should actually probably know, because my mom makes air filters for airplanes.
Oh
so.
my! All right, that's where we're gonna leave it, because I think Kenobi has just disgraced the family name. No, I'm just kidding. You can never do that. As we've got 15 seconds now to go.
Oh, don't be so sure, Rich. I did not take the STEM route that the rest of my family took.
Yeah, this is definitely a more creative route. Absolutely.
Yeah, fine arts for me.
Oh no, as we've got now the final opportunity for predictions. 30 seconds to go before this map of ruins begins, and we're gonna see what's gonna unfold.
Well, we have the double sniper look, or double flanker look, coming out from Wisp here at the start, but Lukewarm is actually on the Ashe, so offering a little more of that long-range potential and utility with the dynamite. But Lukewarm has to play this a little bit carefully, because you don't want to get jumped on by these flankers. You want to, be safe up here on that high ground. And I like the positioning on Infected here, just playing very aggressive to give that space, and a nice ante onto Wisp. That's going to be a secure onto Raker, and I think that's going to be the fight win. Without the Winston, I don't think there's any way Wisp can get into this fight.
Yeah, they can't recover from it. This is going to be O3 Splash playing forward. Nice Bionade to land on a boat, but again, there's nothing to punish it.
And I think it was just really good positioning from Infected for the most part, right? Infected got up aggressive, gave all of this space over to Lukewarm, and just, even if Lukewarm's like not hitting shots, the threat of the Ashe is something that Wisp is always going to have to take into account.
20% already accumulated. High ground attained by Lukewarm, who we've seen continue to dominate when they are given a sightline. Nice pickup. Decode getting an elimination onto Rocket, no longer having that secondary harasser in the back. Sunjun is going to go down as well, with Decode getting a two-piece here.
Decode gets two. Infected is antied and will end up going down, so I mean, Wisp can't really capitalize on this, though, because they don't have their DPS with them. Deco and Neutral have been doing a great job of surviving anything that the Wisp DPS are throwing at them.
And this is why we see this team perform at such a high level and have this consecutive win rate. They are just so coordinated. They know how to thread the needle, play to their maximum potential without overcommitting too much of it, where they do find themselves getting the short end of the stick. Nice fallback here. Magic Mayfall does get at least the bash onto Boat. A couple of pickups finally come through here for Wisp, and they can start to flourish and burn away the remaining members of Splash, but they're still going to stick around because they want to keep this percentage climbing.
I mean, Infected has the Primal Rage, so he's going to be able to survive throughout all of this. Deco, though, gets taken down incredibly low, 10% before that rally. Can Seonjun find a way to get this EMP? Does manage to do so, but I don't think they're going to need it, and that's going to be Wisp taking back control of this point. Really good, I think, engage from Wisp. You know, just at the start, I think, throwing a Nano onto a Winston just to get Lukewarm off of that high ground. It may seem like it's like a lot, or a lot of like resources just committed to one player, but now Lukewarm is in a really scary position where Lukewarm is not going to have any sightline to work with and no space, right? You can see how aggressively Wisp are positioning, and O3 Splash are going to have to work a little bit to try and get that positioning back for Lukewarm.
Nice whip shot and denial coming out from the supports of Wisp to really give no ground or quarter to Infected, who's been doing a stellar job on this Winston in this first initial sub-map. 33% and climbing. No one from O3 Splash can really break this high ground defense.
Yeah, I love this positioning as well. And there's the EMP into the backline. Deco obliterated. Same with Neutral. And this has just been a great angle for Wisp to be playing at right now. You can see, I mean, Boat is just trying in the back end to duel it out, but Boat needs to be able to leave. Boat needs to find a way to leave that, because with a Sombra and a Tracer chasing you, that is not a matchup that I think you want.
No, and especially with it already surpassing this 50% marker, you really don't want it to enter into last fight territory. Nano boost now to Riker, looking for the follow-up, gets the melee, instantly going to shut them down. Neutral, who has been someone we talk very highly of, not really being able to do much here outside of the initial point that they gained control of.
I mean, at this point, you need to make a decision if you're O3 Splash to, like, either go with like Lukewarm's Bob or switch it up, because this has just not been working. They've been stuck here. Their tires just continuously rotating in the mud, not being able to do anything, and they're already, Wisp now have eclipsed the percentage that O3 Splash have, and this is last fight territory.
Yep. Seeing if they can put some cardboard underneath for traction, or maybe put on the chains, anything of the sort. Another pickup onto Neutral. They know how vital this individual is, and they are constantly getting these supports. Wisp, despite them losing 83% out the gate, have brought this into the overtime, where now O3 Splash has to blitz forward to keep this contested, and a Hail Mary play, Bob onto the point, so it will at least keep it going, so that buys some time for O3 Splash to play towards the outskirts, evaluate the situation, but the support line and Magic Maple getting a counterplay onto Boat specifically, who is the high mobility outside of the Lucio, to keep it going. Once the Bob leaves the point, they can't get back onto it. Rocket gets a two-piece, and that's round one for Wisp.
And I think this is a perfect, like, amalgamation of what the Ashe is like as a hero at the current moment, where it's like, if you have space to work with, if you have high ground, Ashe is fantastic. Like, it's so good at being able to just like have those sight lines, use dynamite effectively. But if you're on the low ground against like this double flanker look, and you're not taking, and you have no way to take the space, then you're not really a hero. These are continuously 4v5 fights that they're having, because Ashe simply is not able to have that room against that double flanker look. And if you're on the ground, you are so susceptible to just getting insta-killed by Sombra, Tracer, and Winston.
And this is actually a lot closer than I anticipated. We're still falling within that realm of percentage where it's the 60-40, you know, 45-55. So out the gate, Wisp has been able to show some prowess that is exciting and exhilarating to compete against O3, where we cannot cut them out of this, you know, competition just yet. 10 seconds down before the point does become active. You can see that O3 Splash resides more so towards that counter position of the windmill, while really only Boat threatens the angle onto Rocket. Some sticky bombs along with the Trisots continue to look to bring them out of the sky. Focusing beam to follow, but the health value wasn't low enough that they get the extra boosted damage, since they were just above the 50%, Kenobi.
Well, and that was a really good play from Seonjun, going into the backline, being able to take out Deco. That's a lot of healing lost, and now it's a lot on Neutral to try and pick this one up, but as good as Neutral is, it's just not enough sustainability for the team, and it's so hard to heal, especially these like 2 DPS if you're an Ana, where you have to just like aim and be very precise, whereas Brig, you can just kind of like throw packs and it's a lot more easier to get those members healed up. But Wisp now have full control of all of these sight lines to work with. Nice nade from Squid is able to keep Mateball alive, and Sense now ticking up both of these tracers coming up towards their pulse bombs here. Ooh, I was worried for a brief moment there.
Yeah, you and me both. I had a gasp of air to be like, are you gonna get it, Squid? Oh, not that time around, but this leans in with the nano boost onto Riker, who is able to just elude the sleep dart over top, not really finding themselves in a vulnerable state and still climbing in percentage.
And I mean, throughout all that, Infected went into the backline of Squid and Mateball and got completely obliterated. Wasn't able to get out, trying to get the counter dive, and meanwhile, Raker dives very aggressively, but is able to survive. And O3 Splash seem to be just flailing a little bit right here. They need to find a way to take these fights as a unit.
They don't feel grounded. Oh, Riker gets out, and what a beautifully coordinated assist. Both goes in aggressive to try and get the chase, and actually may not get it in the Winston form, but the stickies and damage throughput will.
Boat the GOAT coming in with a nice 4K there off the back of a nano. You see the replay, these stickies just absolutely dismantle Riker and Rocket, and then at that point it's just a nice cleanup for this team. But 67% picked up for Wisp, and 4 ultimates for them coming online. O3 Splash realistically going to only have the Rally and the Primal Rage to work with, so they have some sustainability, but Rocket on this duplicate, wouldn't be shocked if Rocket just takes the Tracer dupe, and it's like, okay, we have 2 great Tracers. Oh, it's actually going to be the Ana and Neutral. This time it's their turn to get antied.
Neutral and Deco getting instantly hit with that, but they actually persevere through the initial part of it. They force out the Rally, and as they look to heal themselves, it leaves Lukewarm and Boat vulnerable for the rest of that transition.
Squid throughout all that hit an absolutely bonkers sleep onto Lukewarm, who was just on the ground and just really just picked up by the Rocket there in that fight. And Deco gets antied again, falling down. And we talk a lot about Neutral like going into this series. You mentioned it a little bit also. Squid is someone who needs to be recognized as one of the best that we have in terms of those flexibles.
Now, as we approach another overtime position with 10% remaining, O3 Splash still has quite a bit for them to be able to bring this into a round 3. Bolt support ultimates online, while only Neutral is about to have theirs for O3. Pulse Bomb from Sunjin gets a instant elimination onto the Brig, and this is a lot now onto Neutral, which has already been punished on multiple occasions leaning into this. Boat picks up the Brig play to subsequently gain the extra healing necessary, but Neutral goes down. A knock off the edge! The boot comes in! Wisp is absolutely performing at such a high level right now, catching O3 off guard, and they're not even ready for how well Wisp has come out the gate, blazing with ferocity.
Yeah, I mean, blazing. We talked about, the elements. This is Wisp just completely on fire. That performance was amazing from the start. I mean, they had that one moment where Lukewarm got the 83% with the rest of the team having that positioning on Ashe, but it felt like from the moment they got it back on the first submap, and then they got to this submap, they were in control the entire time besides this one boat fight. That was just, exceptionally played from Wisp as an entire unit. The backline for me between Mateball and Squid deserve a ton of credit. Their ability to just survive through a lot of these dives, sometimes even kill Infected when the dives were coming in. That's just incredible support play, and Squid, I think, is someone who is deserving of a lot of praise after what we saw during the match.
Yeah, and not only just from the support line giving praise, but their ability to shut down Neutral as often as we were seeing it, and as quickly as it was occurring, is a real hats-off thing, because I guarantee you Wisp has been watching the broadcast, talking about the players, looking at the value that these individuals are bringing, and right here, again, hard focus. We know that we have to stop this Neutral play.
Yeah, and I actually thought that during the cast it was Squid who hit the sleep, but it was actually Rocket who hit his own sleep on the Tracer, so that was pretty cool, setting himself up for a nice play at the very end. But I think you're right that there was a lot of focus onto Neutral. I mean, Neutral took a lot of damage during that, only was able to do about 2.5k damage, where Squid was about 5k, so I think that this was a great kind of understanding of where the bread is buttered for a lot of this team on the O3 Splash side. Granted, it is control, so like as we go to these other maps, things could sometimes change a little bit. But if Wisp continue to play this good, like I think that they are a team that really needs to be looked at as being, you know, towards the top half of the group, because I was like, this is like a litmus test to see like, is O3 Splash really that much better, you know, than the rest of the teams that are like potentially like in that like 4th, 5th, 6th spot.
Well, and when you bring that statistic to the forefront of discussion, the thing that I go immediately back to is when they were on Eichenwald during their initial broadcast that we had, where Neutral, if I remember correctly, was in between a 4 to 5k damage ratio, so more than half being cut. Granted, that was on Eichenwald, like we talk about a little bit of differentiation when we come to the maps, but still, when you are not allowing that extra fluidity of damage to come through, the bionades to land, denying the incoming heal, group together members, there's so many different factors, and it was just time and time again that Neutral was not really able to play the game, and on that Runes map most specifically.
Yeah, Runes was really hard, I think, for Neutral, because I think there was a lot of really good understanding from like Raker, Rocket, and Seonjin to be able to just like say, oh, there's an Ana right here. There's really nothing they're going to be able to do against 3 of us, right? Especially because there was no like other counter DPS. Like there was, I think they ran Tracer still with both, but like there was still just Ashe kind of sitting there and like not really helping out too much in that regard. So I think that just overall from Wisp, that was just a really, really clean performance. And we do have our next map. It is going to be Numbani. So I actually don't think we'll see too much change because Echo's still very good on this map. Winston's still very good on this map, so this could be like a relatively similar style of gameplay that we saw back on Ilios. Now the difference is that, you know, staging and positioning will be a little bit different. Maybe Neutral gets a little bit more time on the defensive end to really hit those nades, but I think that this is going to be kind of similar in terms of stylistically and compositionally how we'll see this map play out, because it is, you know, very much favored toward the composition we just saw in Ilios.
Yeah, and I mean, the biggest factor too is, granted, I know we've seen a lot of map 5s from O3 Splash historically of the 7 that they've totally played, but it's really one of those times for Wisp to say, do you bleed? And is there weakness? And taking this first map is a time for them to acknowledge that they are able to outmatch their opponent, and how these next maps are going to unfold is something that they really have to keep a hold of. Because imagine you getting this win, like being the first team amongst any others to actually be able to shut them down. Just the mental fortitude, the rally and boost that is necessary when it's going to lead into these last rounds before playoffs, and then even having that confidence going into playoffs. There's so much that can be brought in just with the mental from it.
I mean, especially after the difficulties that this Wisp team had. You know, it was obviously a very different team.
It was,
in Spring Series. There are some members who are still like around, but with like what happened in summer or Spring Series, where they were top of the group, finished in the first seed, and got bounced pretty unceremoniously out of the tournament at like 5th, 6th. So being able to kind of like bring back your momentum and kind of still like let everyone know, not just O3 Splash, but like, you know, this Wisp team is still here to play, that would be a really good indicator for them going forward as we load up into this. And see who's on the defensive end. It's gonna be, looks like, Wisp on the defensive end, and Rocket's gonna be sticking on to that Echo. It's gotta be awesome to be like, hey Rocket, you could just play like something else. We have a really other good Tracer on our team. Don't worry about it.
And then if it's ever just like, hey Rocket, do you want to play Tracer? Absolutely. You go ahead and play what you want. It's exciting, and again, it's so nice and refreshing as well, because yes, it has been a roller coaster for Wisp in the recent future. So being able to start really gaining this type of traction, still being a competitive team, having that type of versatility in their composition and depth of hero pool is so rewarding for them as we continue to work through this group stage. As the doors now open with O3 Splash, looking to see if they can make themselves in an even map scoring.
Neutral already taking an anti, but shouldn't matter too much as Wisp are going to start moving forward. And again, I think this is going to be very important in terms of the poking style, as actually, this is interesting, we're seeing both go on the flank. We usually see a lot of the time more of that just like poking coming from the middle, but here comes the dive and engage, trying to get Meatball, and Meatball is obliterated, taken off the map.
Wow, what a core. Oh, well, nice job though coming in to counteract it. Rocket does get both, but left vulnerable for Lukewarm to finish him off. That was, despite it being such a patient moment at the start, once they had the timing and the communication, they blitzed through that.
I mean, this is contestable though from Wisp, and Meatball will be back relatively soon with those respawns, so it is possible for Wisp to continue fighting here, but O3 Splash have control of this high ground, which is going to be brutal for Wisp.
There's so much weaving from Sunjun down below on the Tracer, making sure to keep it contested, as there is a fraction of a meter to get into that, and now they will gain it. 5 minutes and 30 seconds maneuvering into this payload phase.
Yeah, this feels more like the O3 Splash that we've seen before, where that was just a completely and utterly perfect dive to start things out. Directly onto the Bring in the back line. They win that fight. Now it's going to be O3 Splash with a lot of momentum going in through second here, trying to take all that space away. Pulse Bomb available for Lukewarm. So he was going to try and stick it on.
Neutral. A Hail Mary from downtown behind the bus will not connect, but those darts sure will, and this is where you're going to see that increase in damage output be a lot more viable for them. Every extra bit of damage that can be contributed into this is going to just allow them to snowball. Pulse Bomb onto Squid, removing that support who we've highlighted quite a bit in the previous one as we've done Neutral before. This is just O3 Splash continuing to be on a tear.
And I love just how aware that this O3 Splash team is being right now, where they're not letting like Sunjun get into the backline, right? You can always see that the supports have their head on a swivel, because Sunjun and Rocket were really important in that last map of just getting into the backline, and they're not really having that moment anymore. Sunjun is having a hard time really finding value getting into that backline.
Nano at the ready. Is aware of this flank from Sunjun. Nice bio as well to buy some time, but there is a lob and a half from Squid to dismount Iku and Neutral from up top, as well as Riker, who's going to get slept and left undamaged, so they do find themselves in Dreamland for longer than they would anticipate, as they are knocked away by the flail. Whip shot gets them the secured knockdown. Raid boss continues until finally the nano boost ceases. Now with a counter rally, Magic Mayfall is going to take dominance, and Rocket going to have some brick play of their own.
Finally, it looks like Wisp are going to be able to stop the bleeding at this moment. O3 Splash do have respawns that are relatively close, so they should be able to get back into this one relatively soon as Neutral is able to respawn here, but O3 Splash, 2.5 minutes about taking off their time bank so far. Wisp, pulse bomb again for Sunjun. There's also going to be this Primal Rage from Raker, so the backline has to be incredibly careful to not die.
Sunjun keeping an eye out for the supports. Oh, it is slept! Backpedals into their demise, with Lukewarm getting the final blow. Recalls back to reset 5 versus 4. This is a chance to secure these last few meters with 3 minutes to go. So they have more than enough to work with here pushing into this. They just need to keep themselves coordinated, as we've seen before. Did an elimination independently onto those. There's a nice disruptive play from Riker, who is very vulnerable in the back. The focusing beam actually gets blocked by the bull statue, so it will not bring them down entirely and allows Wisp to recover.
So there's a lot of poking and prodding going on, but I mean, Wisp have used a lot of their cooldowns, and for O3 Splash, they're just waiting patiently, knowing that they have the time to work with here, and waiting for that perfect engagement where they can go in aggressively, potentially throw a nano onto boat and have them just push forward and instantly assassinate them.
Still playing the high ground. Ooh, that was a little bit more damage I think they would have liked. Really having to watch that recall timing to get back to full health. Nice engagement here. All three jumping onto Squid, so they have completely removed them from the equation, separating Magic Mayfall to the outskirts. This is an extremely spread out skirmish for both of these teams with 2 minutes to go and such a short distance remaining. Riker able to get rid of the support is so vital, though, and giving Wisp another attempt.
I think that was a really good counter type, though, from Wisp, right? They know that there's a very aggressive dive coming in from Infected and from Boat at the same time, so Wisp say, hey, you're not going to have any cooldowns to get to the backline and follow us, so Wisp dives onto the backline, creates a lot of disruption, and that fight doesn't look that clean because of all of just the mental RAM that was being used for O3 Splash to try and have that fight split into two.
Time dwindling. Oh, dangerous health values. Infected getting knocked around like a chew toy. Will be able to get top back up, though, as they fall back to the supports. Neutral picked up. Nice job by Wisp. This is going to enter into final fight territory because O3 Splash needs to leave this.
I mean, all the momentum that O3 Splash had for those first couple of fights is completely gone right now. And with 60 seconds left, I mean, this is potentially the last fight that O3 Splash is going to get here. They do have a rally to work with to have some sustainability, but Infected having to use the Primal so defensively like that, it's just such a worrying thing, because now that just lets Raker just use it any way he'd like. He can be aggressive with it, or he can just dive, or he can use it defensively as like a get out of jail free card.
Yeah, and even if it wants to be used offensively, you can use it to just maneuver players away from the payload, especially as we get closer to this overtime, so they can't keep it contested. Now, Rally, up and running, shield active, looks for the stun, focusing beam, gets rid of Rocket, which is so important because the duplicate was just about to come online. There is a massive attempt from Squid to withstand this onslaught, but Lukewarm gets the stick. They make the necessary plays to knock down most of Wisp. They need to clean up the remaining few so they can guarantee this checkpoint and have a minute 30 for the home stretch.
Really good assassination from Boat there, because Rocket was about 3% away from getting duplicate, so Boat takes Rocket completely out of the equation, and then O3 Splash just overwhelms, even through the best of the abilities of Maypal and Squid, who tried their best to stay alive, but it was a perfect false from Lukewarm to negate anything that Rally was going to bring to the table, and you can see Boat again on the flank.
They're ready for it. The dive comes in, but
it's a 3-man!
It was a 3-man, but oh my goodness, that was a massive pickup onto Infected the second that they landed. Oh, are you gonna go again? They're pushing into this.
Anti.
Yeah, Boat still playing aggressively here. They want to gain distance despite losing Infected.
I mean, because Raker was taken down so low, they could just push forward aggressively and hold this positioning as much as they want, because now Infected is back.
Oh, the duplicate Rocket can't even stay in it for long enough to gain any value with it on this other support. So now, Boat has to work with just the standard build. This focusing beam, again, Infected just eluding the focusing beam, so it's not going to reach that extra damage as it drops below the 50%, but Squid and Sunjin able to recover, make sure they eliminate Infected, and force back for 20 seconds. And they need to get these stagger picks as well to guarantee no full contention.
Yeah, Deco going down is a big deal. They need to, like, there's no way that O3 Splash can lose any more members here. They need to find a way to get them out, especially now that Deco's going to be respawned, and Boat just desperately kind of going over to this Sombra at the very end. Boat getting tanked down extremely low, but actually Maypal somehow falls instead.
That's a window of opportunity here for O3 Splash. Magic Maypal, again, does have the rally coming up shortly. Mini Pack going to be consumed by Infected to top them up as quickly as possible for re-entry. Boat and Infected get 2. They might be able to do this in the overtime, despite it being the recovery rate by Wisp on the defense.
And Ricker's not gonna, I mean, Ricker can maybe respawn in Primal Rage in time to get back onto this one. Sunjin might also can triple blink to proc the overtime and stay on it until they can get all these members back. Maypal has to use the rally just to get out of spawn.
Infected. Oh, they're going to be able to get the Primal active, juggling them back, but Riker will respond in kind, getting some juggles, but not nearly as effective as Infected. Wow, that was a tongue twister, as now we go back to the center position. The bubble is there, keeping the payload in tune, as you have a Boat EMP locking down the remaining members of Wisp, and in the dire moments, with every last breath, they focus down Wisp. This spawn advantage will help Wisp, but even with the decoys and the last moment swaps, it is not enough to deny the completion for O3 Splash.
And O3 Splash probably just wiping some sweat off their brow, because they're like, that second point was a bit scary to work through. We almost threw away a 5.5
not what we wanted.
Bank, but yeah, not exactly what they wanted, but this was really good at the start. Like this dive was incredible to start things off, and they eventually got like staggered a little bit here on the defensive end, or on their offensive end, but eventually they were able to make it work. This sleep was absolutely disgusting for Rachel, who has had like a much better, and I think much more space in this matchup, particularly on Numbani, than we saw in earlier.
That's the biggest thing, is the space. It's given so many opportunities where we see the POV, not of just healing, but finding those offensive bionates. Looking for damage in windows, it's absolutely necessary. And it really, in the grand scale of things, starts to really balloon and gain so much more in the overarching objective that O3 Splash needs to have against Wisp.
We'll see if there are any changes. Already we can see a difference in the defensive end. Lukewarm going to be on that Ashe, so not opting in this team for the Echo on the defensive end, which, I mean, the thing about the Ashe is that Ashe on the defensive end works really well because you can, you know, have this high ground to play around, you have long-range sight lines, you also just kind of can guarantee yourself to hit dynamites in these, like, very enclosed choke areas. But the thing is that you lose a lot of the burst potential that the Echo has, but in the same light, you still also get to pressure down the Echo. So Rocket is going to have to be wary that there is an Ashe there, and if I play a little bit too over-aggressive, I can get my head taken.
Yep, and will be punished. Lukewarm down below, not opting for the high ground position just yet. Decent couple of shots out the gate. Rapid fire onto Riker, who has been covered by the bubble for the time being, but a great whip shot to knock them out of it, leaving them more vulnerable. Reposition as well from the coach gun to keep them into the corner, since the jump isn't available yet until they can finally get up to the high ground, but they don't land up top. Rocket gets one onto Infected. Wisp, despite it being a little bit disjointed, actually still capitalize on this and completely eradicate O3 Splash from the position.
It was a great nade from Squid, just directly onto Infected as Infected was diving in, and I mean, it feels like both these teams just didn't want to defend first. They're like, we'll just skip this one, just go right to second, start fighting over there. As O3 Splash, they do have the members, though, to kind of hold at this corner if they so decide to do that, which I think they would probably like to. It would be very scary if they kind of just let all the space go for free, so they're going to start posturing here, and this is a great position still for that Ashe to get value in this enclosed area where Diamonds can get through.
And Squid really keeping that angle to contest against neutral. Squid, that health bar looking real low for a hot minute, but Boat and Sunjin getting a 1-for-1 trade. Aggressive bio nades. They've made a lot of space for themselves by Wisp.
I mean, Infected has died twice on this defense, and it's because of just great antis from Squid, right? It feels like this is a concerted effort from Wisp to really focus down that main tank and then just completely negate the value for Lukewarm to get any space whatsoever, because you need the tank to be able to do that as the nano comes in, and this is not looking pretty with that anti.
No. Big sleep. That is absolutely necessary to get them out and recover before any further damage can be done. Rocket taking a flanking angle and goes for a second on that pick as Riker up front causing more dismay. Actually, he's getting very dangerously low. Needs to be careful here. Regroup back into this towards the point, having just over a meter still to go with 4 minutes. If they can capitalize on this, that would be massive for a time bank, but they get stifled once again.
I mean, it's back and forth here, but O3 Splash have the closer respawn, so Wisp cannot just keep, trading these 1-for-1s. They need to find picks quickly, and you can see they're just still trying to hold as best as they can. Sunjin coming up so close towards a pulse bomb.
They unleash it. In this moment, they do a triple dash. That goes, unfortunately, not on the mark. Between the three of the trifecta. Under a meter. Oh, what a bionade onto 2. Squid. Nope, sorry. Boat saw that there was blood in the water, and Squid, unfortunately, was the target. Consumed. Nice counterplay as well from Boat. O3 Splash, hold on again.
And now finally, O3 Splash are going to be able to take this positioning back. Wisp have to retreat with not a lot of ultimates in their back pocket as well, so they're going to have to play these fights a little bit more slowly here. I think what they're probably going to try and do is wait for Duplicate, wait for a Nano as well coming in from Squid, and that's when they're probably going to try and take that positioning back, because now Lukewarm is set up on this high ground, and it is going to be very difficult, especially when Maypal gets pulse bombed like that, to get into that back line, and now that's just more time taken off the clock, and O3 Splash going to push this advantage a little bit.
Riker holding here for as long as possible just to get some chip damage to generate towards the ultimate as the healers top them. Oh no, Riker! Oh, that was so dangerous. Neutral getting picked up on the opposing side, though. High risk, high reward plays. Nice coach shot to deny it, but the sticky bombs actually still land as they digress back, so Wisp have an opening.
I mean, they do, and especially with Infected down, Rocket is just taking names right now, and it's just a lonely Boat trying to see if he's going to be able to bring this one back, but no way, no how. And Wisp, 4 minutes in their time bank running through third. And remember, Rich, if they get this with more than a minute, it's only drawable for O3 Splash.
Would you say that a lonely boat is like a rowboat?
Yeah. Like a canoe.
Yeah,
Canoe's also lonely.
Canoe's also good. Okay, okay. Or a paddle boat. Oh no, but that you have 2 people in a paddle boat. Never mind. That's a little different. Well, I love my attention span.
Any boat with 1 person is technically a lonely boat.
True. This is very true. Because you do see Tri-Shot coming in onto Infected, who's still maintained in the high ground. A massive time bank to work with as Sunjin looks for the stick. We saw it once onto Magic Maypal, and now we're going to see it onto Deco. Diving forward, Rocket with a double Winston play. Riker Rocket duo with 3 minutes and 10, but there's a flanking angle from Boat, who actually gets both supports.
Infected is also back there as well, so I think that they don't have the supports to be able to sustain here. Riker needs to actually get out, because I don't think you want to stay here and just have to use the Primal Rage in a situation where you don't really need to. Now you can come back in, you've taken down Boat, respawns are closer for O3 Splash, and you have to have your supports if you're going to take this fight.
Focusing beam was able able to eliminate both, but they have a fast action way to get back into this. Bob's going to be thrown into this as well as the... Oh, what a... They damaged him, though. They brought him back into it. Wisp has actually forced out a couple of great ultimates, but now it's only Deco that they have to worry about. Watching the outskirts, Riker diving in, shield active onto the point. So dangerously low, but the Primal Rage comes out just in time before the Bash can land. The sleep in the corner, neutral again, being that consistent player to deny this juggle, but unfortunately they're locked into the corner. The shutdown comes through. It's now the focus on the Deco. It is a cleanup from Sunjun, and with this 5 meters remaining, they are in a prime position to end this with time. And double pulse bomb though from Boat. They are full sail ahead, saying, I'm not done yet. Can they swing this for moments longer? It buys enough for Infected to get back into it, and the adjustment now comes in from Lukewarm onto the Reaper, who has the reposition, the close proximity play. The Moira also adjusted with neutral for this generation, and the Suzu available to them. Influxing the healing on the front as Riker goes down. The supports can't keep him up, and a minute and 35. Wisp fall back again.
What an unreal clutch from Boat. I mean, this looked like only drawable from O3 Splash to now looking like it's possibly winnable for them in this scenario, especially because Neutral has gone over to the Kiriko and now is pretty close towards a Kitsune Rush, and Kitsune Rush is a very good ultimate at the very end right here, but Rocket gonna come back in on the flank looking for an assassination, has the duplicate.
Just needs to get those last couple of picks for the ultimate to be available. It's online. Rocket now chasing down. They need to generate this pulse bomb fast enough so that they can unleash it onto the opponent. The chip damage is there. Can they find it? The nano across the way onto Riker to guarantee this Primal Rage to become active when necessary. Sunjin gets neutral. The Kitsune Rush is active, but it's already falling flat because they are cleaning up with the DPS line, and Riker just raging fists from hell to knock them away. O3 Splash is unable to touch, and they now have a minute and 37 seconds for Wisp on their attacking side.
Yeah, and they should be thanking their lucky stars that Boat got that double pulse, because they almost didn't have that singular minutes. And they, I mean, just completely out of nowhere, Boat with a double pulse, Boat the Go probably being spammed in chat quite a bit right now. But, I mean, this was a really back and forth offense coming in from Wisp. And I think that one of the things that really kind of made the difference to me was Sunjun really started waking up a little bit on the Tracer.
Yeah.
A lot of the pulse bombs were starting to hit, getting some good one clips in that backline, putting down that pressure. And again, it's wild that this team has like two of probably some of the most prolific Tracer players we have right now, and I think that this is a matchup between these DPS that's actually like really, really impactful.
Battle for the ages. So many pulse bomb eliminations in this last 3 minutes. The tail end of it. We will see it conclude, and due to the time bank being smaller, it will be O3 Splash on the attack first with only 60 seconds to their name to make this effective. I mean, granted, if we really want to talk about how the two previous rounds went on their respective sides, the 60 seconds is more than enough time for them to take this initial position.
Oh, yeah, I mean, both of these teams just didn't want to defend first.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll just have them both not do that again, and then we'll just hash it out at second, which is where we'll go. Yeah. But I think now if you're Maypal, you probably are... You've got to be aware at this point that there was going to be that flank, so you can't just posture back in that area, and you can see probably both knows that as well. That's disastrous.
Wow.
I mean, absolutely disastrous.
Squid.
Did Squid just 3-tap him?
That's what
there must have been other damage. There's no way that was just Squid.
If it was just Squid, that's absolutely insane. Because that's influential in this now final fight.
Now it's
with 30 seconds to go.
It's literally this and nothing else.
Infected being forced down from the high ground, looking for re-entry. Needs to be cautious. Whip shot comes in again. Magic Mayfall just completely dislodging Infected. Lukewarm in the back being checked by Sunjun. And they find a value proposition there. Boat maintaining this frontline angle, though, alongside Infected to dive forward. The damage is high onto Rocket, but they can't get the sightline onto it. Can they get the melee? Oh my goodness, Magic Mayfall gives some coverage, gets the whip shot as well. It's a trade in the kill feed, but the overtime is commencing. You need to have neutral and Deco play forward, but there's no other high health value targets to body block for them, and they deny any ticks being gained on this initial attack.
Yeah, and that was all, I mean, off of that one just engage that they started with, where Boat died so early. They only had that last chance, and it was close. I mean, they had a couple of kills in their back pocket, but it just wasn't enough for them to take them over the line, and now it is truly only drawable for this team. I don't know. When was the last time we even had a draw?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
actually, now that you say that,
I don't remember the last time we ever had a draw.
I don't remember that. My goodness. We've been overdue for that, too. We got it's been 0 days since Charles the Ninth, and we personally haven't had a draw. I believe from our production, they're saying there has been a draw.
Got one draw, okay.
Yeah, we've had one, so it's feasible. Not yet in our cards that we've been playing, which I know you've been doing a lot of card playing actually recently, so it's ironic that I use that term.
Yeah, I packed the Soul Ring.
Yeah,
serialized Dwarven Soul Ring.
No, I mean, I miss Magic the Gathering. It's been a long time since I played that.
There's going to be like 5 people who understand the significance of what I just said.
Hey, there's quite a bit of viewers. Maybe it's like 10.
Yeah, 10 people understand
Double
what like
digits.
A Dwarven Soul Ring is.
Double digits indeed. As our production gives us some funny Lord of the Ring gifts in the background. But yes, seconds dwindle, minute and 37 on the clock here for Wisp to be able to take this. Only 1 tick is necessary for them to be able to gain a second map point.
And Lukewarm staying on the Ash here, trying to just be in that position to put some pressure down onto Rocket. But if you're Wisp, you have a little bit more time to work with these engagements, so you can play like, a little more slowly than you would have previously. You can try and take these high grounds away and get those dives onto Lukewarm or someone in the back line like Neutral. That's really what they're going to be looking for on this side.
Big aggression across the way, massive transition. Rocket gets deco. This should be the step in the right direction. The domino now effect is online, but will it be able to make a full decorative display on the floor below? This is a massive turnaround from Wisp, and they have really put a challenge in front of O3 Splash. Wisp is now on match point, denying O3 from even taking a map in their first 2. Unbelievable.
It's crazy to me. I mean, this has been an incredible performance from Wisp. It just looks so crisp, so clean from them a lot of the times. Neutral and Deco have, at least throughout the series.
And it's also just their understanding of the architecture. There were 3 separate POVs that we get to see where there's this attempt of the focusing beam or the chase or the follow-up where they're playing these angles and hugging these walls and denying visibility where they can't get those microseconds worth of damage that will change the outcome of the fight. But with it being a 2-0, that means that we reach an intermission point, so don't go anywhere, friends, because we'll be returning to see if Wisp can make this a swift 3-0, where O3 Splash can battle back.
You like solving problems. Problems like how to stop that tracer from deleting your backline. I know just what you're thinking. You'll bring a turret. But y'all can't solve all your problems by simply bringing an extra friend to the battlefield.
So we've found ourselves in a bit of an interesting storyline today. We all thought O3 Splash would just continue on their reign of tyranny, able to just dominate over their opponents, but today we see that the elements have been stacked against them, and we do see Wisp at a 2-0 score right now, Kenobi, and we've even got a more interesting dynamic is in what map we're going to next.
Yeah, it's Circuit Royale where we're going to be starting things off here, resuming things, I guess, but this is a map that's always interesting to me because it is so unlike any other map that we have.
Yeah, it really is.
To the point where it's like you need to like play a certain comp and a certain set of heroes, or you just lose. Like it's just not going to be fun. And when I talk about those specific heroes, it's Sigma is the biggest one. It's like you need to play Sigma here, and probably need to play Widowmaker and Hanzo, and then like Zenbap. Like those are like that's like the comp, it feels like, for this map in particular.
We get to really change the dynamic of compositions for the last few broadcasts that we've had. And again, with that being said, going to this map specifically, that means none other than some substitutes coming in, and one specifically that we all know and love when it comes to O3 Splash, the one that lives here, that resides within a box hidden in the depths of these walls somewhere. It is Cowman.
You're saying he lives in a box in Monaco.
Wasn't that the joke? That was the joke, right? Didn't his dad say that he just lives there in like some box on a corner? Dad's watching.
Poor Cowman, bro. He's just surrounded by all that wealth and he's just living in a box, man.
I took my shoes off, so I'm helping him.
Okay. Yeah. Bringing in. I forgot that we did that bit in Collegiate, but I think that this is obviously like what we expected going into this, right? Cowman's going to come in, play the Sigma. It's his best hero, I think, at this point. But we also have swaps for Wisp because they're going to switch things up as well. It's going to be Icy coming into that lineup as well. This is something that we saw, I think, previously on broadcast. They brought in Icy to play. I don't know if it was on this map, but Icy definitely did play in another map.
I believe it was. I believe it was also somewhat Diva, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
and
probably what it was, but it's Icy coming in, Choppers coming in, so bring in that long-range hit scan potential.
And then our boy Neb. Neb coming in.
I think Neb is probably here for BAP. If I had to take a gander, I think Neb is here for BAP, because that is what I would consider to be Neb's best hero as well. So
do you still have the sleeve? Do you still have the sleeve from Neb?
Oh yeah, I do have the Fisher sleeve. It's somewhere in my closet, but I think this is a map again where it's like always where you have to make a lot of changes because it's very like hero specific in terms of like how you get success on this map. So we'll be seeing a very different look probably from both of these teams. That'll be completely devoid of like what we saw in the last two matches. Because the last two matches, it was very much the similar Echo Dive with the Tracer. Maybe potentially you see Tracer on a map like this, but I think it just is always better off to be like double long range hit scan and then the rest of the composition with like the BAP Zen and then the Sigma. That's usually the bread and butter of a comp or of a map like this, and it'll change kind of the style of like how these two teams have been playing because it's a lot more slow on a map like this where it's like very much double sniper range.
And when you do take down the tempo and the speed and slow it a little bit, I think that's really a great opportunity for O3 Splash to start to think about how they want to do this moving forward, because they have a reverse sweep in their eyes. They do not want to have a loss here, since it is already a match point position for Wisp, as we are going to be entering in onto this. It is bright and sunny today. It is not going to be the dark, dreary moonlight, even though it does, well, I take that back. It's not really dreary here. It's more like the nightlife kind of scene in this map specifically.
I didn't think it was dreary. I would love to have been in Monaco at night.
I'm always thinking of like King's Row, because that one's always kind of like dreary and like a little rainy and like, because there's literally no sun there, and it's not in the map pool, so like I have to remember that.
I mean, that sounds more like a comment on England rather than King's Row.
Yeah, because it's like 80%. Oh, look at that! Our prod picture-in-picture, sunny days ahead. I love you all so much.
I like this one so much more when it's at night. I think night aesthetic is always cool. This looks fine.
It's okay. Just badmouth our producers being able to get a picture-in-picture of the sun. That's fine. No, it's... Watch, the next time we're here at night, we're gonna see a moonlit picture-in-picture clip.
That'd be hype.
That would.
I'm down. If I have to, BM my producers for that, I'm down.
as we do have O3 Splash on the defense first boat. I really am interested to see how this Genji play is going to work out, because we got to see some Genji play yesterday by King, which was fantastic.
And I think the thing about this that's interesting to me is to bring out the Genji is that it doesn't necessarily have like the same type of like long range damage, but oh boy, if Boat like gets onto like one of the backliners, they're dead. Like Chopper doesn't get to survive if Boat ever gets into that backline. And it also does offer a little bit more of that spam potential, but the thing that O3 Splash do have to be really worried about is just the raw pick potential, right? If they step out of line once between a Hanzo and a Widowmaker, you could just evaporate and the fight's over.
Well, yeah, because when it comes to Lukewarm, there is still some charge-up potential. They need time to get to that rail shot, whereas with the Widowmaker and the Hanzo, it is instantaneous. And Boat goes down by Neb, mind you, with the Discord Orb hyper-focusing that. And you have Wisp on this attack completely taking control.
Yeah, I really love this decision-making as well from Wisp, where they know they have like somewhat of an advantage to like just push aggressively, right? Because they know they have like these long-range hit scan, and they know O3 Splash needs that time, right? You need time for Boat to be able to spam. You need time for Lukewarm to get that rail shot. And Wisp were just saying, I'm just going to throw my shield in front of you, and you're not going to be able to do anything. So this is really good heads-up play from Wisp to start things off, and now they have a very significant time bank moving forward into second.
Chopper still playing their angles extremely well, not over-aggressing forward to leave themselves vulnerable, and getting even just these body shots onto Cowman, bringing their health value low. Dragon Strike across the center. Nice recognition of the backline flanker so that they are not completely unchecked nor communicated amongst the comms. 450 up the ramp. If they can... Oh, what a shot onto neutral. And that is the real potential that Chopper can bring on this Widow.
And that's one of the things I love about this combination of the Widowmaker and of the Hanzo is that, like, Sonic Arrow with the combination of the Widowmaker just being able to see easily. Like, that Cowman gets obliterated right here. I mean, Deco's probably going to go down as well, and this is just an absolute annihilation coming in from Wisp.
This is a masterclass. It really feels that way.
It's weird because, again, this is an O3 Splash team who is 7-0. Absolutely, like, they've been kind of not really rolling because they had a lot of map 5s, but I didn't even expect it to be this bad.
Yeah, it feels like it's a combination of things. Wisp is absolutely playing phenomenally, and then it's also O3 Splash, I feel, just playing disjointed. So it's like you see both ends of the spectrum here really coming to a head, and there's no real way that O3 Splash can just gain their bearings.
I don't even know if I'd call it disjointed, because it's very hard to like highlight this composition against what Wisp are running, right? You need to be like incredibly potent. Boat needs to be able to get into the backline. Lukewarm, realistically, unless we're in third here where you're a little bit closer, he's not going to get value in those open areas because you need an ability somehow, some way to match that one pick potential, and you never will against a Widowmaker and a Hanzo when they're playing like this and have all of this free space to work with. Boat has just been realistically spamming the entire time. Same with Lukewarm, they haven't been able to get picks.
They haven't even been able to accumulate an ultimate either. Boat is just on the cups, eclipsing this Dragon Blade, which hopefully will be something that they can hold their hat on. As you've got the Flux for now, Cowman progressing around the corner once they do drop to the ground, but there is the Immortality Field in the wings from Neb to keep them topped up and secure. No real concern at the moment. And Icy waiting to unleash theirs as they peek this corner. If they can get a couple of ultimates out, both DPS are down, and this is a moment of recovery for O3 Splash.
Yeah, now, I mean, this is something that, like, this composition now is going to start, like, being a lot better at, right? It's in these enclosed areas when you have not as much space to work with as these, like, double long-range hit scan. Boat can, you know, dash in aggressively, find a pick. Lukewarm's going to have an easier time charging up those rail shots, and with the DPS ultimates that they have, they should be able to win maybe 1 or 2 more fights off of that one, so this is really where they have to make their stand and stop the bleeding, right? They do have, like, a very hard defense to make with 4 minutes, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, dialing up their effectiveness is vital. They attempt... Ooh, Icy attempts to rotate around the shield there to deny the accretion from landing, but gets completely blown to bits. It's a big boulder indeed. So now they go back to spawn.
Syndron gonna go down here, and I wonder who's gonna win this match. Oh! Oh! Alright, Bo needs to be respectful of these two up here, as he does have the healing available to him, but...
Ooh, that was spooky. Oh, but a flux in the outskirts.
This is so weird.
Yeah, I feel like this is a quick play game. As weird as that's gonna sound, with now the Transcendence being popped towards the outside, it allows them to recover, at least for the moment, but once it falls, Neutral gets picked up, both DPS are cleaning up from Wisp, and Icy back to the front line!
And somehow, some way, I mean, Wisp were able to turn that fight with a couple of very key picks from Sunjun there, and now Wisp are going to start moving forward. They have the sights as well from the Widowmaker. 0-3 Splash need to get back onto this one. Calman's so close towards that Gravitic Flux.
Overclock needs to be big here from the high ground. Oh no!
Oh, Squid!
Squid, as we've talked about before, when you're on the Kiriko, it is absolutely unreal how consistent those kunais can be. They have opened up the floodgates. There is some counterplay from Boat in neutral, but they are only 2 meters away. If Icy and Nev can continue to maintain here, despite there being the overclock and Boat actually gonna come in. They're gonna turn this around.
Yeah, Deco's back here with the healing as well, and I don't know where that Dragon Strike was going, but that felt like a celebratory one. And they didn't win after that. That was not my favorite Dragon Strike I've ever seen, but hey, sometimes, you know, sometimes you get a little bit ahead of yourself, and that's what happened there, it looks like. But 0-3 Splash, I mean, continuing to mount this defense at the very death. Dragon Blade is going to be available for both, so Chopper going to have a really tough time navigating this next fight unless there is some sort of immortality, which with the Kiriko and with the Baptiste, there's that potential to peel for Chopper.
Sunjun counting their chickens before they hatched. Oh no, as I say that, Sunjun is just going to get rid of Boat and chips away at Calman. Almost gets even a fade away onto Lukewarm in the back. Are we going to see another kunai takedown? The reposition with the swift step down below. Collapsing up towards the payload, sticking here in the bar area underneath. Icy popped up. The Kitsune Rush will be a win condition here, especially because they have the amplification matrix. Oh my, nobody can walk in front of that doorway, but Boat in the back with the dash reset, and the blade continues to hack and slash through the health bars. The Suzu buys a few more seconds as Squid gets the takedown. 45 seconds. They need to reconvene, but the thing is that there is still the spawn advantage for 0-3 as Deco comes back out with the Kiriko. Calman down. They've lost the tank. Neutral has the Transcendence, who's gonna proc it going into this and bring it even closer to the overtime. Kenobi?
I mean, they don't have the DPS with them right now for Wisp, so they don't have a way to really secure these kills. Boat is in the backline, taken down so low, but gets healed up.
Playing back towards the payload, you can see Deco in the corner, hugging the wall. Don't want to leave themselves vulnerable because there's not really an opportunity to top themselves up since Neutral's focusing elsewhere. Deco still low, getting finally, oh my goodness, Chopper wants the shot, but they can't get it. And the Venom Mine destroyed. 5 seconds to go now. Nab in the back is gonna get extremely critically low, but they have the immortality field to survive. The amplification matrix once again, mind you, in this, gets to pick up onto Lukewarm, which is absolutely necessary. It is overwhelming 0-3 Splash in the dire moments here in the overtime where they get just enough to conclude this map with a team kill.
And I mean, if you're Wisp, you're kind of, you know, nervously just wiping the sweat off of your brow because you had like a 5-minute time bank going into third, and it almost got completely stripped away, but you at least guarantee yourself that at the very least you'll get another attack. But this start of the map was just completely... I mean, a lot of it was Sunjun just being able to just pump out so much damage that there was no way 0-3 Splash could keep up with their own DPS line. And then once we got to like third, like, yeah, the Genji started to get a lot better, the Sojourn started to get a lot... excuse me?
Right?
That was insane, that shot from Chopper right there.
Yeah. And you can just see, I mean, again, I have to give credit to 0-3 Splash. They did reduce a significant time bank off of Wisp towards the tail end of it. A little bit of like blunder plays as well from Wisp getting overconfident, but you know, all things considered, still managing to complete. Now on the defense, 0-3 Splash, liking that they might want to take a little bit more of this Hanzo into the mix, going with the Shimada brothers specifically to try and counteract on the attack.
Let's see. I mean, if you're Wisp, I don't think there's really like a need to like change anything up. I think if you're 0-3 Splash, the difficulty thing here is that like Boat doesn't I think that like you can play the Genji still, and I think it's effective. But again, it's very hard to pilot in these like first 2 points of the map because it is just so open, and you are just really just trying to spam as much as you can. I like that Lukewarm though is on the Hanzo because I think that offers a little bit more of congestion to that long range than something like the Sojourn, where it was very much you wanted to brawl and try and take out the tank. But now Lukewarm has some sort of potential to be able to get one-shots like Wisp do.
We'll see if they'll able to find just as much value. Chopper gets bodied by one, but still able to fall back behind the statue alongside Sunjun. Nice volleys coming in as well on the back line from neutral. Lukewarm gets the pick and the second. It's all right. It's a 1v2 now when it comes to those one-shot potential players, and that's going to give a massive opening for space to be accrued.
I just like this so much more. I love the decision-making and the adjustment that's been made here from O2 Splashes. They're going to be able to take first here if they can secure a couple more of these kills. But actually, Bo does go down. Both supports are still here from Wisp, and they have not capped yet. It's a complete disaster. Oh, my lord.
Chopper and Sunjun come in fists blazing after they got taken down from Lukewarm.
Yeah, I think they just, I think O3 Splash just got a little bit too overconfident there. Yeah, they wanted to like push the pedal to the metal, but they didn't have this fight secure win. Boat, I think, saw that like there was a very low member, but they weren't able to execute that kill, and now all of that good work that they did taking all that space is going to have to be reset here, and reset even more as neutral ends up going down. And now you're significantly behind if you're O3 Splash in terms of that Transcendence, which makes it more difficult. Boat's going to go down, and the pick potential here from Wisp is just doing absolutely wonders.
The amount of bandwidth that Boat has to have to try and manage both of them, because Chopper, you can see them looking at with the deflect, and then just to the side of it, Sunjun gets more arrows the second it drops. So it's just constantly having to understand where those two positions are, even if it's not a vast difference between the two of them. We're gonna get new. Ooh, Squid, there it is. Oh my god.
That just Zenyatta volley things, you know, Donna just a freeway, just see if you can hit anyone there to get the kill, but we'll see a re-entry coming in from O3 Splash. There are sights on the other side from Chopper, so Wisp do need to be careful about where they're positioning. Probably just wait this one out.
And you can see the outline there for neutral, and Chopper's just waiting for them to step out into the open. And neutral's just like, fam, I'm waiting this one out. All right, Flux now in the back. Does get bolt supports. Oh, and the pickup before they get into the immortality field is so critical. Lukewarm finds Chopper. Sunjun, though, still alive. And there's a nice return Flux, which the immortality field has been active. Amplification Matrix. Oh, this is going to be extremely challenging, but Cowman going down by Neb is really helpful for Wisp defensively. Buying enough time for them to stack up once again with only 60 seconds to go, Kenobi.
Yeah, O3 Splash aren't going to be able to contest here. I mean, the Dragon Strike comes down from Lukewarm just to try and zone members off, but eventually, they're going to be back here on Wisp, and they're going to have a Transcendence to work with, so a lot of sustainability still here. Lukewarm getting taken down solo, eventually falls to Chopper. So does Boat. That's both the DPS gone, and now it's just a reset for this O3 Splash team. They're about to get full hold if they don't start changing things up. Lukewarm, desperation. There's no way.
No, you didn't, Squid. You are dirty. You're dirtier than the ink that you use defensively against Predators. Like, let's not even talk about it.
I can't believe that. That's a great shot. And I mean, Squid still has Transcendence, so Boat's going to come in here with the Dragon Blade, and it's just going to get completely negated by all of this healing that the Transcendence is going to bring to the table.
10 seconds now to go. Final moments to see if Wisp is able to lock O3 Splash out, making it a massive shift for their confidence, and you've got the Transcendence to come out from Squid, holding on to this Chopper, looking for sights, can't quite get the shot because the wall came up in time. Now, 1-for-1, Squid and Never down. Lukewarm has been able to step up, something that they've needed for a while now. The Hanzo had its value, but the Widow coming in clutch right now on the high ground. The stairway just popping off right now, and a rolling boil.
I mean, that's one way to try and bring this one back. Lukewarm with 3 absolutely clutch kills at the very end. They're taking down both supports, just completely turn that fight around, especially getting Squid after that Transcendence was over, and O3 Splash are given a new lease on life here, start moving through second. They have an Ant Matrix to work. They also have that Gravitic Flux in their back pocket, so this is a snowballable potential for them. And with Lukewarm playing as well as he is, I think if on the other side you're Chopper and Sunjun, you have to be careful.
Oh, the flux. Oh no, Sunjun gets picked up by Deco. They find the angle and free firing before they hit the ground. Amplification Matrix to counter. Wisp. Oh, Squid is dead. Boat comes in on the Tracer and now has that backline harassed, and there's really nothing for Squid to do when they had so much focused attention through the Amplification Matrix to heal them through the damage.
I mean, they're also just in this kind of tiny corner right here, just waiting potentially for them to go, as here comes Ant Matrix, and that's going to be a lot of incoming damage.
No. Icy's shield is being deleted. The Kinetic Grasp will take them. Oh, just through the rock. I don't even need to see it. It's Deco coming in with a triple kill and neutral to top it off.
I mean, I would be kicking myself if I'm Wisp now that I have to play this part of the map, because now it becomes a lot even scarier for the Wisp team, because this is where O3 Splash's composition is going to get a lot more value. Like, there's going to be the Tracer in this enclosed area. Pulse bombs should be very easy to hit. You can use that mobility to go on the flanks and basically just make Chopper's life completely miserable. As you can see, Squid has actually gone over to the Kiriko just to offer another form of immortality, but also offer that mobility to get away, because the Zenyatta would not be able to survive against like this coming onslaught.
I mean, also just the pick potential too. I mean, we've seen Squid able to get these couple of picks with those kunai so effectively across the map, as we've already seen with the volleys from the Zenyatta. 2 minutes now, underneath, Boat sticking close. Will look for an angle, gets rid of the immortality field. Neb is low, but will get assistance. Nice job by Squid. Lukewarm finds a shot again here. Chopper able to come back tenfold and finds Lukewarm flanking around the pool. You were looking to put your feet in the water, but unfortunately you shouldn't have taken a dip in the pool.
Oh, and Deco's just waiting here, potentially trying to find some picks at the very end, but Chopper finally gets another one, and a minute and 30 seconds left for O3 Splash to try and take us to a map 4. They do have a Girded Flux, they do have a Transcendence to work with. Those are going to be very key ultimates coming up in this next fight. It's not impossible, especially with Lukewarm starting to heat up a little bit here, but Chopper also, after that 3K, matching mano-a-mano.
No one wants to enter into the window just yet to combat against Lukewarm, who's had some very dominant picks. The payload is actually still moving a little bit closer, since you have Cowman sticking close. Chopper finds Lukewarm again this time, and it was a probably more engaging duel than we saw when they were running around the pool. Chopper just gonna fall back for the moment and keep this. Watching out for the side though, as an accretion comes in addition from Wisp.
Yeah, Neutral needs to get out, actually. If Neutral ends up dying, that's going to be disastrous for the team. And they actually know they're chasing Neutral.
Are they going to get the sightline onto it? Neutral backpedaling into the scope of Chopper, but the shield is there from Cowman to deny any pickups. Looking for the grapple up top, playing off the slant. Neutral, ooh, gonna fall back. Lukewarm gets it. Chopper, so fixated on the support, leaves an opening for Lukewarm. Now, down the center sight lines, a flux into the corner. The Kinetic Grasp will hold on and keep them going as the Kitsune rush from the defensive side. The Pulse Bomb is denied. Beautiful timing from the Immortality Field of Neb. This is the final moments where O3 Splash might just find their first loss over the course of the entire group stage, with Wisp being the one to hit them in the kidney and bring them to their knees. Lukewarm going back in for the sidelines. Neutral sticking close, looking for the shots onto the backline. Harassment from the Tracer plate. Sunjun gets the shutdown. Squid follows in suit as well. Gets the kunai I talked about earlier. Wisp has managed to actually take not only a victory away from O3 Splash, but in a fashion that I don't think anyone was ready for.
Very, very convincing. And now the rest of NA becomes incredibly interesting, because this O3 Splash team was 7-0 going into this round, and they have been absolutely plastered by this Wisp team in a 3-0. Wisp looked absolutely incredible against one of the best teams that we have in NA, and I think that this is a team that people need to start looking out for, because we had them last season, top of the leaderboard for a lot of this, but now with some additions that they made, Sunjun coming in looking incredible, Squid and Neb and Mateball also like bringing a lot to the table. I think that like this team, like a lot of the other teams that we talked about who weren't O3 Splash in that like top 4, top 5, they can make very deep playoff runs.
Yes, absolutely. And just real hats off to this squad. They've, like we mentioned, had a roller coaster of an adventure in these last several months, and now coming in their prime, live on broadcast, mind you, taking down a team that all of us, I think, truly thought was indomitable and that could not be brought down, and have finally shown some weakness. They've bent the knee for now, but this is a hats-off moment to Wisp, and they are, I guarantee you, in those comms, elated for how this turned out.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely a good momentum booster for them, to beat a team who, granted, strength of schedule does matter a little bit in terms of who this team has been playing in O3 Splash, and but they are still 7-0, right? And just beating a team who has not been beaten yet, that just has to feel good for a Wisp side that has gone through some tries and tribulations recently. So hats off to Wisp for a good 3-0 victory in O3 Splash. I mean, for them, it's now about how do they continue going forward, because they still have a lot of very tough opponents left in their group stages, right? They still have to play Saints, they still have to play Good Boys, they still have to play Pip. There is a lot of incredibly difficult matches up ahead for this O3 Splash team.
Yeah, they've had a little taste of reality to show that they are not invincible, as we will get to see more matches ahead before entering into, of course, those playoffs later on. But before we get any further into discussion, we are going to take a short break to get an interview with Riker, so don't go anywhere.
Oh, hello! Fancy meeting you here. It's so nice to see ya. Are you ready to survive the wastelands? Then you'll need to bring your shotgun, your axe, and of course, your knife for your sharp wit, if you get my drift. Hey, whoa. Hold on there. Don't forget to pick up your Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Yeah, gearing up is as easy as connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. And after that, watching the Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drop progression, letting you claim your own wasteland-ready Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Oh, that's right. It's time to rampage. Now, get out there and slay with the Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Okay, take care now. See you in chat.
We return for an amazing opportunity to speak with one of the members here from Wisp, who just put on a performance in a half and found themselves able to take down the massive beast that is O3 Splash. We have Riker with us, my friend. The floor is yours. Tell me, how are you feeling?
Yo, what's up, guys? It's Riker here from Wisp.GG's. I hope you guys enjoyed watching Wisp duke it out versus the Titans of O3 Splash. Currently 7-0, now it's 7-1. I really appreciate Kenobi and Rich Rad casting us today. I really love y'all's casting. I'm feeling great.
Yeah, we love it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that was good. I mean, I don't think I could have done any better than that. That went about as.
How long did you make that strip? Yeah. How long did you make that script for? You've been waiting for that one, haven't you?
I've been waiting a little bit. I'm trying to make some more content on the Wist.gg's Twitter, to get our name out there. But I'm really happy to be here, and we played our hearts out today.
That's an understatement.
So talk me through a little bit about this series, because it's coming into this, it's we have to play the team that's like 7-0, and like in terms of like strength of schedule and things like that, they were still 7-0 regardless. So like, what was the preparation going into this one? Because it obviously probably meant a little bit more to be like the team that knocked O3 Splash off this pedestal that they had.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. O3 Splash 7-0 doesn't mean a thing to us, because we take every map by map to live in the moment, deal with problems as they come. We did know that Lukewarm likes to specialize in that Sojourn, and they do. I know O3 Splash, I know all the players, they love to put Lukewarm on that pedestal. They love to put him on that pedestal and play for him to carry. So this match, we really try to zone in on that and focus down Lukewarm, and I think that's really what brought us this victory today.
So with the focus onto Lukewarm, the other thing that me and Kenobi, were really highlighting was the support line in addition. Like, your team as a whole was playing so stellar, but there's been always just this looming fear from a lot of teams in what neutral and the support line from O3 Splash has been able to do just as a whole to bring down a lot of their opponents. But you guys really from Wisp didn't allow that to hinder you at all. Was there any kind of recognition for their support line as well to try and take value in Squid competing against them directly?
Yeah, so as far as the support line, we at Wist.gg's on Twitter like to more so zone in on our own playstyle and enforce how we like to play the game. The whole series, O3 Splash, we know what they're gonna do. They're playing our game, and especially with our massive 8-man roster, we cover every single hero known to man. There are no gaps in our hero pools. We can play any comp anywhere. So we make sure that we got this down on lockdown, and I really think that our flexibility and able to shut down Lukewarm and shut down Infected really made us have some momentum to keep the series going and close out 3-0.
So for you specifically, I guess with like the compositions and like the playstyle that you're running, is there anything that like you do in particular in terms of like communication as a team, right? Because I think a lot of the time in this current meta, there's a lot of like counter diving, but from what you're saying, it's like a lot of the time it's you guys being the ones who like are aggressive, because it showed in this match, right? It felt like a lot of the times you were the ones who were going first. Is there anyone who's like making those calls? Is it you because you're the Winston and like you want to go in aggressively? Like, how does that comm structure work between the team?
So within our comm structure, we like to we're pretty free-spirited. We take ideas from all over the world, from Squid's head, from Meatball's head, from Chopper's plans. We like to kind of make a combination so we all know what we want to do in the fight. And when it comes to playing aggressive, naturally, all of us are pretty aggressive players. So dictating that tempo, shutting down Lukewarm, flanking, all these things, all the combination of these things. So, we at Wist.gg's, we really like to have a fusion of different play styles and what we want to do. So we try to play very flexible in that regard.
So now that you've been able to, work your way through this and get yourself into a position to take down such a massive team, what is your mentality going forward? I know you say it's like every match, every, game in and of itself, like moment by moment. What is it that you're going to do to continue elevating yourself and as a team to make playoffs and play even more formidably?
Yeah. So we actually do have a plan to, win it all and bring it home. So it all starts off with, scrimming a lot. We got like 2 blocks here, 2 blocks there, triple block here, triple block there. And we try to work as hard. That's the main thing with Wisp. You see a lot of Wisp players go to Overwatch League, King, Crawley, CJ, and even some other players there. We're a really hard-working team. So I think as long as we keep continuing working hard and making sure everybody's on top of their game, we can bring it home and win Contenders.
Okay.
Okay. Well, this has been a great interview so far. I want to, and I want to keep you here for a little bit. Just one more question. Do you have any shout outs for anyone out there? I feel like this is a question that you're really going to enjoy. Is there anyone you want to shout out?
I do have a message for somebody.
Okay. The floor is yours. Go for it.
Infected, you think you're the king? No, I'm the king.
All right, choice words indeed. You know, I gotta say, if you ever, you know, when you maneuver away, if ever away from like esports or competitive play or anything like that, I could see you as a PR person. Like you'd be like the figurehead of some organization, because you're sure doing it here.
We like to keep the positivity bouncing, reflecting off each other. You feel me? We just
absolutely.
You'd be a great marketer.
You'd really be a
great marketer.
Yeah, absolutely. Go right in for those handshakes, being like, "I'm here to meet you, my friend." Well, we have to tell you, it is an absolute privilege and pleasure to be able to talk with you, Riker. Thank you so very much for the time, and energy,
appreciate it.
And I can't wait to continue seeing how you and your team perform moving forward. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Rich Rod and Kenobi. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Riker.
What a way to end the day. I'm okay with that. Like that's how we end it. Yeah.
I like interviews like that. Those are always some of my favorites. Riker was a great personality to talk to. Learned some stuff about Wisp. Learned what their plans are for the future.
Wisp.gg.
Yeah, Wisp.gg. Gotta shout him out on Twitter. Make some content. But I think that like this Wisp team is now starting to find their momentum, and beating a team that was 7-0 is going to be great for them going forward. We can actually take a look at how the day has been, not just for NA, but for also EMEA at some point as well. But we'll go to NA first, because that's where we're starting off. Afterlife 3-1 Rift there. So a good interview, I think, as well from Rhino, talking about the things that Afterlife wanted to work on and trying to get that 8th seed. And then Wisp 3-0 O3 Splash, which is something that I think that a lot of people weren't expecting going into this one, but Wisp really strutting their stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. They were full of oxygen to boost the flames. I really had to bring that in one more time. So we're going to take a look at the standings now. We're going to just completely toss that to the wind. Again. With O3 Splash still being in that number 1 seed, but having their first loss listed. And I mean, there's
a lot of shifting going on.
It's wild how this is adjusted since what we saw.
Yeah, this is not really what I was expecting. I mean, Timeless has taken a free fall from like where they were. They were in the top 5, and they lost 3-0 to Pip. They lost 3-0 to Amplify. They lost 3-0 to Afterlife too. So Afterlife, a lot of momentum, feeling probably extremely good.
But look
after
at
a win like that.
But look at Amplify. Amplify skyrocketed up themselves.
I mean, when I was talking about earlier, where it's like there's like 6 teams, 5 teams that I think can like compete for like this like middle of the pack. Now, I mean, look at this. There's like from 7-1. I mean, like I think 7-1, 6-1. And 5-3 probably are guaranteed to go through more so than anything else. But like 4-4, 4-4, 3-4, 3-5, even Rift at 2-6. Like those are all teams that still can fight for. It felt like it was just for like that bottom 8th seed, but now I'm like 6th through 10th is a possible just complete switch up.
Yeah. It's crazy to see how much shifting around we've had as we will conclude today's broadcast, but we do want to inform you of when the next one is in hand, as we do have it be on July 24th, which is going to be Monday of next week. So only 6 days away, not that far ahead. So you make sure you pencil that into your schedules. It will be Saint versus O3 Splash, a moment where I think all of us can say this is redemption round for O3 Splash after what they had happen today. And then it's followed up by another, I think, really good one. Wisp able to now take this, carry it into that, and then now how Amplified's going to play again, since they've managed to move themselves up 3 places in the standings. So this day also going to be, I think, a really good one.
Yeah, I mean, it's the last week, so I mean, if the stakes were high this week, they're even going to be higher next week, where it's a lot of just like deciding the seeding, especially with how clumped up that middle of the pack is, if like which teams are going to make playoffs, which teams aren't going to be making playoffs. So a lot to play for in those last 2 days. We also have EMEA as well coming in. You have Raspberry Racers versus my, I guess, home team, Team Peps. Vive la France, but like
Vive la France.
Team Peps got to shout them out for my French heritage, and then O4 Dash, another expansion of the O2 Blast O3 Splash pipeline, is going to be playing up against Ataraxia.
And that's going to be, again, I think still really great showings as we can take a look at the standings here where a lot are residing. No shocker here.
Wow,
and at
Twisted
least,
Minds is 8-0.
you know, I got to say, at least there's a team that keeps that record because 0-3 Splash, you know, had a little bit of moments today. So
who would have thought
gonna,
Twisted Minds would be undefeated?
I would have never. Absolutely.
They are a very, very strong team.
Yeah, it's one of those teams where you just kind of awe at from like a distance and just recognize the caliber of players and just organization that they have all around just within esports as a competitive team. But with that being said, again, we are towards the end of the broadcast for today. Hopefully you got all the drops that you would like, and consistently using that hashtag OWPTP2023 always allows us to keep you in tune with the not only support of this, but also just giving your feedback. So Kenobi, we can call it for now. We'll look to see you all next week. So take care, happy gaming, and until then, my friends.
You like solving problems. Problems like how to stop that tracer from deleting your backline. I know just what you're thinking. You'll bring a turret. But y'all can't solve all your problems by simply bringing an extra friend to the battlefield. For that, you need the Contenders Torbjorn skin. Solve your problems by connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim your Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin. Even your turret gets an upgrade. Warning, the Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin does not come with extra or upgraded turrets. Build instructions will not be provided. By picking Torbjorn, you waive a claim towards any destroyed turrets. No refunds, no exchanges, and no take-backsies.